You all set? All right, we're ready.
I'm ready to pledge.
All right. Good evening, everyone, and good evening, residents of Litchfield, and welcome to the April 18th, 2018 school board meeting. I'd like to begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all. All right. That was off. Do you have any revisions?
I do not have any revisions, Mr. Chair.
Summary of non-public actions from March 21st, 2018. Mrs. Harrison made a motion to approve the non-public minutes of March 21st, 2018. Mrs. Hirschberger second. Motion carried 5-0-0. Mrs. Harrison made a motion to approve the non-public minutes of March 28th, 2018. Mrs. Hirschberg second. The motion carried 5-0-0. Mrs. McDonald made a motion to accept the renomination of Ryan Keller as a special education teacher. Mrs. Harrison second. Motion carried 5-0-0. Presentations and recognitions, I don't believe we have any at this time.
I don't. We will hopefully have a presentation for our Excellence Award and can explain to new board members as we get to that. We try to honor people who have gone beyond the pale, so to speak, in terms of education, both within the district and within the community, and we'll try to have an award to honor somebody in the first meeting in May.
All right. There's no one here from the basketball rec league?
They said they were gonna be here.
Okay.
They might be running late.
Okay. Well, we'll pass by that in case they show up. If not, we'll just touch base on it. All right. That'll bring us to CHS graduation cap proposals. I think there's some students here who want to discuss something.
Alright, so we want to propose.
Could you introduce yourselves, please?
I'm Jessica Bedard.
I'm Catherine Camilio.
We want to.
Seniors?
Yes. So we want to decorate our graduation caps, pretty much. Not just us, but all the classes ahead of us. Okay, so we've talked to a lot of people before we started actually going about this, and one of the biggest things that people said that was against it was that it's a tradition at Campbell to not decorate our caps. And after talking with a lot of people, we all kind of came to the conclusion that Campbell High School was opened in 2000. Our class will be the 15th graduating class, so it's not quite, it's too early to decide what is a tradition and what is not. Students have been wanting to decorate caps from what I know back to 2011, so this tradition is turning more into rejecting students year after year. And the most important thing to think about with that is that traditions can always be changed. Individuality. So the red and black gowns keep the graduates looking classy and united as one whole family like we are. But the decoration caps will give each student the opportunity to be unique within the family. It's a harmless form of self-expression that I've in our last moments of Campbell High School students. And it's a great way to express kind of who we've become as people throughout all of our years of learning. So a lot of people have asked how we're going to keep them appropriate. So we just thought as simple as same rules as the dress code. You know, no alcohol, drugs, profanity, safety hazards, and it can't be offensive or interfere with the rights of others. Keep them neat and clean. When we talked about this with Mr. Prez, we agreed that if this was to come into effect, we would say no pop-ups, nothing crazy that distracts from the student themselves. And the design must be approved prior to the ceremony, whether it's by, a board of people who are assigned to approve of them, or whether it's 5 minutes before the ceremony as they're walking out. So why do we want this so bad? We've asked a lot of opinions, And these are most of the comments that we found that I thought were the most real, I guess. So we've spent 12 years being taught how to make the right decisions and how to be trusted, and we're all mostly adults. Our class funds pay for our caps and gowns this year, and those funds we have fundraised since we were freshmen in high school. And the caps could be used to hold what our future, present what our future holds. So people can use it to talk about what college they're going to, if they're going to the workforce or the military or to a trade school. Other people can use it to thank the people who helped them get through, like their family members. Another comment that was one of my favorites was that our graduation is a celebration, and it should be treated like one. If we have earned the right to walk across the stage on a graduation day, we should earn the right to express ourselves on that big day. Many students won't be moving on to college either. I've heard a lot of people say that you will have the opportunity to decorate your cap when you graduate from college. Well, not necessarily. There's a lot of kids going straight into the workforce, going into the military, or going to a trade school who won't get that opportunity when they graduate college, per se. So, petition. We brought out a petition one day at school. It was out for probably 3 hours. When I brought it out, I know I was kind of swarmed by a lot of kids who wanted to sign that. They wanted to decorate their caps. It was signed by over 140 students, teachers, and faculty, and that was just in one day in one spot in the halls of Campbell. And then there was a message posted on Litchfield What's Up asking the town's opinions, and it received almost 200 comments, and only 5 of them were negative responses.
That's pretty good for the What's Up page, by the way. We only have 5 negative
To only get
comments.
5 negatives, yeah.
So up here I have just some examples of caps, and then we have Catherine's older sisters when she graduated college. Like you can see, they can be used to show, their hobbies, like the football, and someone could be going on to become a teacher, going to what college they're going to. And then I included some pictures of groups of people to show that they don't look messy. If they look nice and together, they still look good because of their gowns, and the tops of the caps just kind of show, who they are. So then we made a Survey Monkey.
Yes, so a SurveyMonkey is a website where you can create a questionnaire to send out to people for them to vote. And so on April 5th of 2018, I created a SurveyMonkey asking 3 questions, and I got a total of 355 responses. And the first question was, what would you classify as student or alumni, a faculty member, or a community member? And the second question was, do you feel the policy should allow graduating seniors to decorate their caps? And then there was a yes or no. And then you had the choice of leaving a comment. And the overall percent was 81% said yes, 19% said no. And breaking that down, faculty voted 77% yes, 23% no, and student voted 77% yes, 23% no. So, and then community voted 85% yes, 15% no. So student and faculty, they had the same amount. And so lastly, with all this said, we thank you for listening to us and hope that you support the class of 2018 in decorating our caps.
And if any of you have any comments or questions, or you think we missed anything, we really want to hear it. We want to know what you have to say.
So this year you own the caps and gowns. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Did previous years own the caps and gowns? Okay, so
Yes.
there's no difference there.
The only
Okay.
difference is that this year, our class funds are buying our caps and gowns, when previous years we would have to buy them individually.
Oh, I
But
see.
our class funds are from our class dues and fundraisers that we've done since we were freshmen. So, yes, we will own them after.
I guess I have a question. Who did the Survey Monkey go out to?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Mr. Perez sent it to the whole faculty.
Twice.
Yep, twice. Jesse posted it on the Litchfield What's Up.
And on Twitter. for,
and Twitter.
students.
I have another question. And I'm not going to be popular, and I know you guys all know where I'm going to come down on this. that I think graduation is a formal ceremony. You're expected to wear dress shoes, a tie, and a shirt, and I think celebration is for afterwards. And you guys all know that's just who I am. And what are you going to do about someone who wants to put their political agenda on there, like gay pride or something like that? Do you have guidelines for that?
Well, yes, it's along with like the school dress code, like, you know, no swearing, profanity, anything that comes.
Because I know yours will be beautiful. Believe me, you guys,
Like-
will be beautiful. I just worry about the other things.
They can't
Trying to
offend anyone.
if
So
it's
if we
offensive
see
to
one
anyone-
that is like offending like something else, like outside, we'll say no, you can't put
It
that.
was brought up to me by Mr. Pothier that we could have like a board of like me and Catherine could be on it, and then like a few teachers who like want to help out, and we could sit like out at lunch or something and kind of have kids come to us with their ideas. And then when we talked with Mr. Prez, he said we kind of came to the conclusion that if a student shows up day of with their cap, not what we approved, completely inappropriate, then the correct punishment should be taken. Like, whether it's they don't walk or they have to pay for another cap that has nothing on it. We figured it wouldn't really be our place to come up with what the punishment was, but yeah, as long as it doesn't offend anyone or.
So you're gonna let the faculty, can I decorate my hat too, if I'm there?
Sure.
I went back and looked at the historical documents. I found one. It was actually provided to me by a staff member, and it was the first graduating class, a memo describing what the graduation committee proposed. 9 of those 12 members of that committee are no longer with Campbell High School or involved with the schools anymore. It included 2 students, 3 faculty members. It included community members. So it was a great group of people, and it also included the building and grounds, Litchfield police chief, and and Chris George, the principal. And in looking back at this, some of the things that I thought are really just important things to mention as a piece of this is that they had high standards, and they meant it to be
A formal
a
ceremony.
ceremony. There's no question about that. But we've changed things a little bit, and I just want to be a little bit attentive to that. Initially, the procession, it was only supposed to be class officers and National Honor Society's members wearing sashes and cords. We have student council, we have music honor society, we have pins for special things, we have all sorts of decorations that occur now. They weren't part of that original plan. Students wear red and black caps and gowns, didn't say anything about decorating or adorning them or doing anything else on that. The key point is the ceremony will be dignified in structure and in its expectations for the comportment of our graduating classes. And I think they've done a great job with that in terms of the comportment, although my understanding is we've had blow-up dolls and some things that have not been necessarily so dignified and so appropriate, but those aren't the school-sanctioned and the district-sanctioned activities. But the one thing that they left at the end of this email was that the senior class is still in the discussion stage about finding a way to make the ceremony personal to their class. The committee remains open to suggestions of positive activities that will support these students in making this a celebration that we can all be proud of. And I think if we get, no offense.
Oh, no,
I think
take
if we get stuck on that word ceremony versus celebration, you can talk about graduation as being those formal gowns or monastic robes in some ways, okay? If you go back to what these formerly were. We can't go back to that, right? But we still have to move forward and think forward. Now, young ladies and Liz know that I like this idea. I'm a supporter of this idea. However, I do have a staff that's divided on this as well. And I think maybe a suggestion is to create a new graduation committee that looks at this and decides how to move forward. My understanding, however, it is the principal's responsibility to run graduation, manage it, and make sure that it runs appropriately. So sort of putting that out there, I think they've done a terrific job. I don't want to stay grounded in necessarily some of those traditions that we might think a little differently moving forward on. That is
Anybody else on the board have anything?
I think it's for the kids, so my only concern would be the, nailing down. I don't want somebody not to walk, because it's, obviously we have to figure that out.
Yeah, we
But that'd be
have
my only
extra
concern.
graduation caps that we can manage the kids
Yeah.
could get, and they might have to pay the $3 or $5 for the cap. Yeah, but the other piece of that is, we have amazing kids in this town who really tend to be pretty positive and respectful when, particularly at those times when they should be. I would anticipate few to no problems with this.
It was also brought up that if we wanted, this year could be kind of a test year. If it goes well this year, future classes could also do it. And I think we would really be open to doing that as well. If it goes not smoothly at all, then so be it. But I don't think we would have any problems, like Mr. Lonigan just said.
Who's gonna police it? Is it gonna be the students, or do you think it's going to be cumbersome for you? Because even though, like you said, if the design is approved, then what happens the day of? I mean, like, no pop-ups, you said, like no veils, it's really has to be tasteful,
Like,
I'm certain we have staff members that would be
do that.
very
All right.
interested in making sure that they're appropriate.
Yeah.
Yes.
yeah, we've talked to a lot of staff members about it, and a few of them have said,
We'll help you.
They would gladly help us, keep it intact, keep it appropriate,
And Jesse and I can also be there in case there's some slang on it that a teacher wouldn't know about that's inappropriate
that's what
that
one of the
we
teachers brought up.
can pick out.
Yeah, they said, what if
Oh,
someone
well.
forward with this cab that has
Right.
all this, and then there's something in it that
Yeah.
they don't notice until later on. Me and Catherine would be
Going
more knowing
forward to university.
of the teenage thing.
I just want to say that I'm very impressed by how you girls have done your research and done your homework and taken the time to really put the effort forward in getting the support of our town and the staff and the board. I did not I graduated in the dark ages before kids decorated their caps in high school, but I did do it for college. And I feel like we were a small group of kids in our graduating class at St. Mike's. I did blow bubbles though at my high school graduation. So. But I don't see it as a form of disrespect at all, or I think it's a reasonable expression, and I approve personally. I don't have a problem with it.
I think you ladies did a very nice job as far as your presentation.
Thank you.
My initial thought, as far as decorating a hat like that one has a name on it, when
Yeah.
you guys throw them all up in the air, you'll be able to find your hat.
And your parents can find you in the audience
Exactly.
too. That's
Yeah.
the nice
Yeah.
thing of it.
Yeah.
And all I'll say to that is, you coming to the board is very nice, but the board really has nothing to do with it. It's totally up to the high school, what they want to do, what they want to dictate. And we have Mr. Lonigan has the full support of the board, that whatever direction he decides to go in, that's his choice. I personally have no problem with decorating the hats or not decorating the hats.
It's just me.
Whether or not you,
Catholic school, sorry.
I did too.
I did too.
I did too.
so I think that's gonna be up to Mr. Lonigan and, Mr. Perez as far as making a decision if that's what they wanna do. I mean, they run the building. Yeah,
you.
and I'm certain that your hat might be decorated, but, you'll still be wearing a red or a black gown, and you'll still, look good, and it'll still be a nice ceremony, as it has been in the past.
And please let it be sunny.
Yes.
Yes,
Please.
yes. I don't want to make that decision. Yeah.
Well, one suggestion I had as I was reading over this proposal, and I'm for self-expression, is that maybe, those are great ideas to have a trial or a committee, but my thought was maybe you let every graduating class decide.
If
Do they want to do it or do they not? So they're
Yeah.
an entire class and not just 50%, just, an overwhelming majority. That was my thought. So there's an alternate idea.
Yeah, it could be as simple as like a vote during advisory or something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, do you want to do this as a class or do you not?
That's a good point. So you surveyed the students.
Yes.
I'm assuming that means all students.
Yes.
How many students are in your class?
In our class, it's about like 140, I think.
Okay.
So listen.
So were all of the
Less.
students on the survey members of your class, or were they?
We don't really have any way of telling.
Yeah,
which
it was
students took it or
anonymous.
not.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
yeah.
Okay. I like the idea of it being kind of a unified, class decision.
Yeah.
You know, if they don't want to
Class
do it, they
want
don't
it or
have to do it.
not. Right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
right.
Still self-expression.
Yeah.
Well, I just want to compliment you for coming before the board and doing a fabulous job, getting your data, and, doing a really thorough job. I know that there's been a lot of discussion about this you had shared with me, and I think that you folks have gone that extra distance to make it really a public conversation and get support from the community, from the board, and from others. And so, very, very nice job, and I fully agree with the board chair. This is a Campbell High School decision.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So why don't you two stop down tomorrow morning and we'll talk about how it moves forward. Okay?
Okay.
Awesome, good.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Great job, girls.
We're so constant.
Yeah, I saw Paul coming in.
You can leave now. Yeah. I can't.
So we'll just backtrack real quick here, and we'll go back now to the Litchfield Rec Basketball League. I saw Paul came in. He wants to talk about backboards.
Graduation caps for backwards.
Yeah.
Do we decorate the backwards?
Yeah, we can, I suppose. That's what they do in the hood. Hello. You can just introduce yourself, Paul, and your address.
Paul Soul. I'm not a current resident. My children are residents of Litchfield in Northborough, Massachusetts. But I'm the president of the Litchfield Rec Basketball League Board of Directors in town, and we submitted to Michelle sort of a request to allow for us. The Litchfield Rec Basketball League has accumulated some surplus funds over these last 10 years, what have you, and as a nonprofit, what we'd like to do is investigate and explore and then facilitate upgrading some, if not all, of the facilities at each of the schools in town. I've spoken with Jared Mills, AD at Campbell High, regarding the outdoor court there. Tom Licklider and the AD at Litchfield Middle School, as well as the outgoing, the last person I spoke to was the outgoing vice principal at Griffin Memorial School. And all have expressed a willingness and interest in having us facilitate that by using our funds and hopefully providing heavy-duty, sturdy basketball pole upgrades and full fiberglass hoops with collapsible rims to facilitate year-round play, as well as access for school and youth teams for clinics and so forth.
Paul, have you already surveyed the schools already?
Surveyed the schools.
As far as what they have for equipment now and what you would need as far as replacement?
What we're going to do is, hopefully with your blessing, set up 3 little committees on our board of directors, one for each school, to assess what they have and what is feasible and best suited for the lot that they're currently using. The goal is that you have at least one full court painted basketball hoop at each of those facilities, if not more. So I, for one, would be on the, volunteered to be on the, just as an example, is the Griffin Memorial School committee. So you've got basically a broken backboard right into the school entrance,
Yep.
and then 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 hoops there. The potential concept is that you have 2 lined and painted full courts, and then maybe a adjustable heavy-duty rim with just a foul line painted area, so that the really younger, smaller kids, and also any ability to modify the height of the rims, which we've experienced with plenty of wear and tear at different facilities, would only be allowed by the facilities person at Griffin to adjust that as see fit. If we have to get one of those ring videos and mark up that, you know, the ground's under surveillance and something like that to prohibit any type of vandalism, but we don't really anticipate it. And the initial vendors that I've reached out to and so forth, they provide pretty insurable and pretty decent liability in the event that someone figured out a way to collapse it or break it. In addition, we've reached out to several contractors, God bless them, in town that are willing to offer their labor, time, and resources at no cost. And we'll continue to do that for potentially resurfacing any of the grounds. So we think it's a worthwhile project, willing participants and very receptive audience at each of the schools.
I think it's great. The reason I asked, I know like at GMS, the backboards and the poles are fairly new. I know there's a broken one there right now, but I believe they were replaced, I think, 3 years ago or 2 years ago. So one of my concerns is LMS, because LMS doesn't even have a backboard right now. They had a couple of portables there that I think are probably just laying on the ground somewhere.
Right.
So I think you'd have to probably talk with grounds maintenance or Corey as far as where you would place them as far as at LMS, because in order to get a full court there, I think you'd have to put one right in the middle of the parking lot. I'm not sure what other...
Correct, and LMS is the outlier as far as, you know, we want to do something. They facilitate our access to the league season round, 7 days a week.
Yeah.
And another proposal is potentially to upgrading the indoor 4 side rims to fiberglass quality, so that you could have you could even pull a curtain and have multiple practices going both ways on the sides. The other thing was there's a local flooring contractor exploring the idea that I've been to a lot of games and spoken to a lot of coaches and so forth and looked at town facilities. They have a real, they've commented on how challenging it is to play at LMS given the width on the corners of the courts. And when you look at it, all that we've initially looked at, all that would be required is repainting the width points and moving the rim to a point that it will allow for bigger 8th grade kids to get down in there. You really can't even shoot a 3-point shot during most.
Stand on your tippy toes in the corner.
Yeah.
That's right. Size 7 and below, foot. So I could shoot one, but not many others in town. So that was one option, and we spoke with the head basketball coach of both teams, and the problem is that could be expensive if it called for complete resurfacing and repainting of all of the lines, so that you didn't have new wood with a new part here. So.
Yeah, I think that's what it would constitute, because I don't think you can you can't go with both sides. You know, you'd have to shift the whole thing towards the bleachers. I think in the middle school, because you don't have that much room once you like set benches on the other side. There's a little bit of room, but not much.
Right. So, like I said, we would engage you on suggestions. Are those hoops in the back of the building? Are they at a higher risk for potential vandalism? I don't know. Back where you pick up the kids after a dance or what have you. But the bottom line is, if each school has at least a half-decent 10-foot hoop, so that a kid on a summer day or a group of kids on a summer day have somewhere to go and play, and ideally it's at all 3, and there wasn't a risk for damage, then we hope to provide that, and continue. And if we have to continue to raise funds if every hoop can't be upgraded or what have you, to at least take a step in the right direction at each one of the schools.
Well, what I suggest is, I think it's fabulous you're doing it, and I'm sure the board will support it 100%. I think what you want to do at this point is get your committees set up, find out exactly what's needed, exactly what you want to do, what the cost will be, and then the board can go from there. I mean, have a better idea of, like I said, I'm thinking like the middle school. I'm not sure exactly what you'll do at the middle school. The other two, I think, are pretty simple logistically, you know, what you can do as far as setting up courts.
The one challenge at GMS will be depending on time frame. If it was something you were looking to do over this summer, there's multiple projects going on at GMS where you don't want to set something up and then have equipment damage what you've done. So I think just keeping in communication with us, so we know
Great.
the time frame and how to get that set up.
Is there anything already in the plans to be replaced for basketball that could be
No, not
help us a little bit with the budget too, or
not currently there, but I know in terms of, so Scott has a bunch of games that are painted on that
Yeah,
parking lot
that's
out
my
there
thought,
too.
too.
So you want to coordinate that with Mr. Thompson as well, because I know I forgot when they did that. It was a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
They painted a bunch of games for the kids
Right,
at
the
recess.
chess.
out on
And I
that
think those will
parking
take precedent over a basketball court.
lot. Yeah. So,
Would it be possible those hoops that you said that exist there, used as trade-in potentially for the high-end basketball rim and backboard sets that, you know, we've seen prices anywhere from 800 to school discounts of 400, and we have to explore what their tolerance is for heavy use. And if we get $50 or $100 per one of those Swisher Miss hoops that are there.
Didn't we buy those when we were on the PTO, Brian? Those backboards?
Mhm.
Yeah, they're 4 or 5 years old. The PTO bought them and donated them.
I think we made a contribution towards them, and then the school picked up the rest of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're gonna be replacing them with higher quality, then there's no need for it
Maybe
for
the
us.
vendor will accept the trade-in or what have you. Okay, great, so
So I'd
sounds
say-
like proposed, come back with what we believe agreed upon for each school for this is what?
Yeah.
Plan, cost, and
Yeah, come back with-
represented at this
Yeah, come
forum?
back with cost and plans for each school and exactly what you wanna do and
Okay,
what you wanna do it with, and we'll go from there.
excellent.
it's a great idea.
I just want to comment, I had a conversation, as I recall, a couple of years ago, and we talked about this happening, and I'm just excited that you brought it to fruition and it's going to happen now. So
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
It's taken 2 years of campaigning. But
Lot of hard
I'm
work.
excited,
I
we're
really like
excited
the
to do it.
idea of of one for the elementary school that can go down lower. I really like that idea. Because they could use that during school for OT, all sorts of stuff. I love that.
I just worry about damage to that one. Is it, did you say it can log?
So when you drive around Bow or these other schools, they have them.
Do they have them?
And they're just so industrial strength that unless you were seriously aggressive on causing damage,
I just worry about like the bigger kids. Does it lock if school's not in
it does
session?
lock,
Oh, okay.
and it also has a device that doesn't allow for them to adjust it. All right, thank you.
very much.
Thank you.
I believe we have someone here from CHS who wants to do a beautification proposal.
Make sure you introduce yourself. Make sure you introduce yourself.
So, my name's Jessica Grondine,
I'm Olivia Carlson.
and this year we're members of the National Honor Society. And every year we have to do a individual project. And this year, what we're really passionate about, what we really want to do, is beautify the land behind the school. So, like where we have, there's like
There's a basketball court back there.
yeah, there's
like a little
tree
canopy
area on the
thing.
side. Yeah, there's canopy shed. There's a little garden area with like a tree and like a
little statue thing, yeah.
Yeah.
Is it the side closest to the track?
No,
No.
on the
It's-
obelisk is.
Where
and
the teachers park?
Is it where we go in to vote?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
the gazebo like thing is.
Which structure is?
My voting?
The structure.
Okay.
That post and beam stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have some pictures that you guys can look at. We made
We'll just hand it around.
socially use this, pass it around. So one of the
Can I just, before you start, because I looked at the pictures and I saw all the different things, your ideas. How big of an area is that? Do you know how many square feet you're talking about?
we don't know exactly how many square feet it is. That's something we would look into. That way we know how much of certain materials we need to buy. So if we get your guys' blessing, we will go ahead and do the measurements as well as take soil tests, which will help us along. Yeah, so the first thing that we would do with your guys' blessing is we would, like I said, we would do a soil test. So there are 4 components to that we do. We would do a squeeze test, which would be
we could test to see what kind of dirt it is, whether it was loam, sand, or clay, depending on how it stays together when it's just slightly damp and you squeeze it. There's a percolation test where we would dig a large hole and we'd fill it with water, and we would see how fast water would drain from that to see how well the drainage is in that area, so we can pick certain types of plants.
Then after that, we would do a worm test to see how many worms we would need to make the area better. So with this, we'd dig a smaller hole, and we'd sift through and count how many worms there would be to see if the soil was healthy or not.
Yeah.
So what we're really trying to do is we're gonna like dig up the grass a little bit and plant some new grass. And along the building, we want to put some flowers there and in that little corner near the doors, and then put some more flowers. There's a tree back there, so we're planning on putting like taller flowers in the middle and then going out, and obviously picking ones that would have it so we could have flowers all year long that would bloom at different times.
Except for in the winter when there's like 6 feet of snow on the ground.
Yeah.
Then there would be a pH test. There's 2 ways we can go about doing that. We can, Mrs. Devine said that we could borrow testing strips so that we could test the pH levels. But then there's another way that we found. It's like DIY. And you can use baking soda and vinegar. So you would add baking soda first.
Or vinegar first.
Or vinegar
and if it
first.
bubbles, then we know it's alkaline already. But if it doesn't bubble, then you add baking soda. And if it doesn't bubble, then we know it's acidic.
Or if it doesn't, well, we know it's neutral. And then if it does, then it's acidic, and we know how to accommodate and try and make the soil healthier and better from there. Yes, we would like to add worms to the overall area, so going back to the worm test. So just because the more they're in there, the healthier they'll make the dirt back there, and for farther along in years to come, the soil will hopefully get to a really nice loam texture rather than what it is now, so that should be a big help. So yeah, we're looking into different grass mixes, so like maybe mixing 2 species of grass to help for a more for a fuller, greener look all year long, and then like getting a little bit of soil, which we just put around the holes where we're digging plants to help make them stick better and like just grow a little faster in the beginning, that right when they're trying to get their roots. For flowers, we have a couple ideas.
Peony mix, Amazing Grace, and Irish species. We also want to plant some of our own, like starting from seedlings, not just all that. So we kind of want to get started soon.
Yeah.
Tulips. Go ahead, you can say that.
Smiling twin butterfly daffodil. So a lot of these are like a handful to say, but it's easier than their scientific names. We have lilac, wonder tulip, wild tulip. Most of these are perennials. I think towards the bottom of the list we'll get into annuals, and that's just annuals we may have to keep planting every year depending on how funds go, and whether we'll have the support from the environmental club, so they'll help. We believe that we can get support from the
AP Environmental. She wants to incorporate more gardening in her class too.
Will they let you use the greenhouses in the science wing?
Yeah.
Awesome. That'd be great to see those growing.
So the environmental club will help with the upkeep from year to year. Is that what you're saying?
And so will the AP Environmental. There's a class on it, and they
There's also a Litchfield Garden Club. Or
Yeah, we did. We talked to them.
You did contact
Well,
them.
we talked to Mrs. Hood, who said that they'd probably be willing to help
And
us
they do
out.
an annual plant sale where they have
Yeah.
clippings
Yeah.
and they take stuff.
Yeah.
So that might be a way to get something.
And we have to thin out the butterfly garden at GMS, and there are lots of things in there you could have too.
That would be great.
I think in general, this is a great idea. As a non-gardener myself, it sounds like a lot of work, and I'm a bit concerned about the scope of it. It's huge. I mean, your plans here are wonderful and well thought out, but it's huge. Is this kind of a multi-phase project where you start with one thing when my other thought is you're juniors or seniors? Juniors. So we only have you 2 more years. Right. So is this something that is going to be long lasting, after you've graduated?
Yes, this is very sustainable. like I said, we have lots of perennials, and we will talk with the groundskeeping staff to see how they'd be willing to contribute to certain things. So whether or not they think certain flowers or grass seed mixes are a good idea or would be beneficial in the long run. But most of the flowers we picked are very low maintenance, and they don't require a lot. Like the first year, they require a little bit of weeding and stuff, and just a lot of water first every day for a few weeks. But we are more than willing to do that. Like that's all on the thing. But after that, once they get started, they are good to go, and we won't. They'll be sustainable. And one of the species, I believe, was it the tulip, or maybe it was the doll? One of the species that we have on here is known to last over 100 years without.
Oh, peony.
Is it the peony? Mm-hmm. With minimal to no work at all done.
They're all bulbs.
Yeah.
Yes.
If you get grass to grow in that area, I would consider it a success. That's all. Because I know for advisory, we used to go out there, and the grass, it's sandy. If you could get grass to grow, that would be a success before any flower is planted.
Yeah.
Have you talked with Tim's Turf?
Yeah, we're going to talk with them, see if they'd be willing to donate some materials, whether it's grass seed, soil.
They'll help you out too, as far as just even direction of what you need, what you don't. If you bring them a soil sample, he'd be very helpful for you.
That's true.
Do we know too, I'm kind of jumping ahead, but as like the courtyard at GMS, we know we cannot dig down. We've been working on that project for years. Do we know if what's under there?
Grounds will let them know. Dave Ross will let them know.
Yeah. The other thing that we run into with the courtyard at GMS is who maintains it. How do we get who mows it, who weeds it? So I would recommend that is very clearly defined moving forward.
Well, it's part of the grounds. It's part of the grounds.
There's already grass back there. They already mow
Right.
it. Yeah.
Right now
it's just going to be.
But there's another garden over by where you enter into music that people don't really know. I think it was a dedication garden, and I don't know who keeps that up. No one keeps that garden up.
Discussion about that it really should be kept up a little bit better than
I think it was, I don't know when it was planted.
And there are certain beds at different schools that, like I know Liz and Jill Osmore do the butterfly gardens at GMS, and so while it's part of the grounds, there's definitely kind of a who does what.
Yeah.
Volunteers.
We will work on making sure that it's clearly stated and worked out so that there should be no hassles in years to come. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, we're also part of the Key Club, and they're always looking for things to do because they don't do a lot right now.
To have
so they all need volunteer hours. So.
And so does NHS because despite our individual projects, we all need group projects, or group hours. So just random things you can do around the community to help, and they're always looking to help out.
Yeah, there's a lupine garden way in the back that they started too. That's back there. That kind of went under disarray.
Yeah, that one's supposed to be like a wild species area, so you're not supposed to like weed it or anything.
Yeah, the endangered plants.
Yeah.
Yeah, the environmental club. Is that the one the environmental club's working on?
Well, it's more AP environmental.
Oh, AP environmental.
Yeah.
So is that the conservation land?
I noticed in your proposal too, you talked about putting moss on the roofs of the shed. Can you do that over that whole structure that's there? Just make it all moss.
I'm waiting for one of those things to come down and poke in someone's head.
We had met
about
3-4 weeks ago.
Yeah,
I can't remember exactly how long ago it was. And I want to first of all compliment you on your knowledge that you've gained over the last 2 or 3 weeks and the number of different people you've talked to. And we had some discussion about the scope of what you wanted to do. And we did talk about the moss, and I had a similar comment as the board chair about, well, maybe you can moss the whole thing and make it disappear.
Yeah.
But I think we decided to focus on what you presented here today, which is the plantings up against the foundation, the redoing of the grass, and you've done a wonderful job in terms of getting all the knowledge about this, and you're very employable now by the local landscaping community, and good luck.
Thank you.
Another thing we wanted to do besides this, and we agreed on this, I believe, or we mutually thought that it would be a good idea, was like a little bird sanctuary, and we have bat houses. We already have 2. I was going to bring one today, but it's a little hectic getting around today, so I ran out of time. But we would hang those up in the trees on the side of the area that we're working on, and we'd have some birdhouses.
And we did look into the
Yeah.
kind of birds. We found a website actually that you can look into your area and see what kind of birds are more like indigenous to your area. So we were thinking like robins and bluebirds, and it tells you like what height you should grow or put your birdhouse at, and where on the tree you should put it. So we would
You
do
guys
that
have done your homework.
for where
Did
we
you,
would.
did you come across the term niche when you were doing all of your
Yes.
homework? Good.
As for fundraising for this, we have a couple ideas. So one is if we get your guys' permission, we are going to immediately start a GoFundMe page, which have proven to be very successful for many different individuals and events in the past. If we post a link on the Facebook page, we truly believe we will make a decent amount of money that'll make a pretty good dent in the cost of running this. And then the plant swap, like you mentioned, we were thinking about
we
doing
talked
that.
to her
yeah.
on Facebook.
Just donations in general, so like maybe going to different businesses and seeing if they could put it like a jar, like you can go to the grocery store and be like, do you want to donate $1 to this cause with your purchase or something like that. And we could put around local businesses, nursery, Max Apples, for instance, or I think it's Green Hill Gardens and Nurseries.
That's in Londonderry.
Yeah, well, that's in Londonderry, but still, I think that they're pretty in line with what we're trying to accomplish. So we truly think that they'd be willing to help. Plus, I've talked to them in the past about donating for other projects that, although didn't technically get their feet going, it just didn't have enough momentum. We do, though. We have lots of momentum, and we're like so passionate about getting this done. They were willing to help out with that.
And then we have proved in the past that going to door is very effective. So, like, even if they don't want to donate money, a lot of people have their gardens overgrowing with, lilies and stuff. And usually if you go door to door and you ask, like, a mom or something, she's like, oh, I can't donate, but, you can have some of my flowers.
Yes, like when they're digging them up anyways, like, oh, if you just come collect them. We're like,
Yeah.
sure, like, we love that.
You'd like to come do my garden for me?
Yeah.
That would be great.
So,
I think it sounds great. I mean, that's an area that definitely can use some sprucing up. So I think it would be nice. I think some of that, again, direct you to Principal Lonigan as far as, making sure we're going in the right direction and what needs to be done. I think it's fabulous. And I'm certain that if you need help, Liz will help you.
Lush grass.
Right, Liz?
we're really
What?
trying.
If you need a hand, you'll give him a hand.
I will totally give you a hand.
Then advisory can go outside again.
Yes.
Because a lot of advisories, we kind of just sit inside and do nothing. But even
I'm a
during,
big fan
like,
of
Fall
pasta.
Fast and stuff like that, it'd be nice to have another area to go to, other than the middle of the track.
All over that.
If you're doing it in the next 6 weeks, I might have some soil to give you.
Great. Yeah, I think that's all we
Keep
need
us
to
in the
cover.
loop.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Great job.
Thank you. Lydia, here you go.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. It's a tight sign over here. Tell me.
A lot going on at the high school. All right, so next I have a letter from the VFW. Dear Mr. Burke, Hudson Memorial Post 5791 and its auxiliary will be hosting its annual Loyalty Day Scholastic Awards ceremony on Friday, May 4th, 2018 at 7 p.m. We plan to honor citizens, students, educators, public servants, and others who have made a significant contribution as well as being of our community. We invite you and the board, and a guest to attend the ceremony as following district employees will be recognized that night. Kelly Frazier from CHS, Loyalty Day Award. Andrea Hamilton, LMS, Loyalty Day Award. And Jocelyn Robinson, GMS Loyalty Day Award. So,
Okay.
all three will be recognized at the VFW.
Very nice.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Do we send a letter or anything from the board to them? Like,
What's that?
do we send a letter from the board recognizing them or anything like that?
No, the VFW is going to be doing that.
Sometimes we'll invite them to come.
Yeah. That brings us to superintendent comments.
I really don't have any comments. I had a wonderful vacation last week, thank you, and I'm kind of getting back on board as of today, and I would just defer any comments until we have our next meeting.
Next on here is conversation on Facebook Live or other streaming resources.
You skipped the school
Calendar.
board meeting calendar.
Okay,
Do you want to go to that? It's just internal.
I think it's just internal.
That should-
Oops. So we're at this, right?
Must be, I haven't got it.
All we done is just made the change we talked about the last meeting.
What was the change again? I'm sorry.
I believe
We moved the September 19th meeting to September 26th.
26th.
Oh, okay.
And the budget committee the other night gave us their budget review dates and schedules, so those are marked in yellow. They added another,
And that's for town and school.
that's for school only.
That's for,
They added another, meeting on there in November for an extra,
so the school is presenting at 7 budget committee meetings?
well,
No.
excuse me, the 20th is just in case they need it.
Okay.
Excuse me,
Didn't
the
we do it in
6th
three
is for the
last year?
town.
4, I think.
Was it 4?
Yeah, the 6th is for the town, but can also be used for the school if there's any
Okay.
spillover. And the 13th is the final, the warrant articles for the school.
Okey-doke.
Thought it was,
Why are they spreading it out so much this year?
So, who was it that made a request? One of the members made a request. Oh, I think it was Mrs. Burke, who made a request that, they had added an additional meeting onto the school, presentations and review because it was a lot to take in over
I had it
just a
down.
couple of
I
meetings.
had it down a little different.
Mrs. Burke.
Just the,
It was a lot.
It was, I know. I
You
was
were on
there.
vacation, weren't you?
No?
Oh.
No, I was there for the school presentations,
had it-
wasn't it?
Oh, some,
I don't see them needing that many meetings, but
Yeah.
they get through it,
They get through, they get through. it.
I had the first, 8th and 15th of November is the school
And the
district.
29th.
And that one they said was tentative, we may not need it. Wasn't that
No,
the
the
one?
20th of December was the one they said was
I
tentative.
thought they said both of those were tentative.
They
Could be
added
wrong.
the
Get through this
29th
week.
as an extra meeting in
Okay.
case we needed it.
And when's the town going?
Town is,
4th and 11th
October.
of October, yeah.
Really?
They'll have 3 or 4 meetings in October.
so the 4th, 11th, 18th, and 25th.
I had the 4th and 11th as the town meetings, with the 25th as tentative, and then
It's tentative,
and then I had the 1st, 8th, and 15th as school board, of the 29th as tentative, but I could have misheard that.
Well, what they do is they present, on the 4th and the 11th of October, they'll present the town will present its budget. On the 25th is when the budget committee will vote. And in November, the 1st, 8th, and 15th is when the school board or the school district will present, and the 29th is when they'll vote.
Oh, we have plenty of time before
Yeah, I
those come up anyway.
Hopefully,
Because I won't be able to make this comment next fall.
You can always stop in.
I could, and never mind, I'm not gonna go down that road. This past year, I thought, the budget presentation process, was very well done. And I thought we really focused on the functional areas as opposed to line items. And I thought that by focusing on the functional areas, we got a chance to look at all of the major changes and then would respond to any changes within the line items that people might be interested in. And I would express a little concern that we go back to more of a line item analysis of our budget, when I think the functional area analysis is much more doable and much more telling. And so I would just hope that we're not going to extend out the budget meetings so that it would allow for a kind of process that I don't think is appropriate.
Did they talk about changing the process, Bob?
No, they did not.
Okay.
Great.
So unless they want to just, I don't know, maybe just
Actually,
get clarification to make
Matter of
sure.
fact, I think they said they liked the process.
Good.
Good.
Well, I thought it was excellent last year.
Yeah.
And I want to compliment the chair Cindy last year for moving in that direction. I
Yeah.
think it was an excellent process, and I thought everybody had an opportunity to find out everything they needed to know.
Took a little time to get there, but I think we got it nailed down right now.
I would agree. The 3 years I have been here, I thought that was the best budget process I have seen or experienced.
Does anyone have any other questions on the proposed board meeting schedule? If not, I'd like to have a vote on it. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. We have a calendar, we'll just get clarification on this part.
Yeah.
Now,
Excuse me, Mr. Board Chair, you want clarification on the November meetings as to,
I'm just curious what the thought process is. I mean, I'm pretty certain we did it in 4 weeks last year.
That's
And right
right.
now we have seven
Well,
weeks
it's
later.
not-
I understand
not
that they
really
normally have
seven.
1 week for a bumper. You know, just in case.
The 6th of December is mainly for the town, but if case they had questions for the school, you know, that's always included in there.
Yeah.
The 13th is mainly for the school, but it's basically warrant articles and default budget.
Okay, so the entire budget's gonna be done on the 29th.
Yeah, it should be.
oh,
yeah.
okay.
Okay, and then it's just
So
warrant
that's a 4
articles.
meetings.
Right.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's parallel with last year.
The 20th is the tentative date, they said in case it
Just
spills
left.
over.
Right, that makes sense. Then the other two are just for, one for the town for warrants, I take it, and one
Yep,
for us
one
for
for
warrants.
us.
Right.
The only reason I put all of them on there is
Yep.
just so you
No, that
are
makes more sense
prepared
now.
in case, no surprises.
Right. All right. So now we're gonna go to conversation of Facebook Live or other streaming resources. And I think Michelle sent some information out to everyone, in reference to both. And I don't know if everyone had an opportunity to look at the information she sent.
What was the advice from council in regards to the comments? Can we just not? That was
Have a letter.
Yes, I
my
do.
biggest question.
With regards to Facebook,
Yeah. Can we ignore the comments because they're not saying
Was
that
this from the
they're
attorney?
from the town or?
Michelle?
I'm sorry?
Was this from the attorney, the letter that's shared with us?
No, the letter,
Let me-
we just got the letter today.
we just got the letter. Let me read the paragraph that references, I think, that you had asked. As we discussed, even if the Facebook Live permits viewers to post comments during the meeting, I would not advise the board to answer those questions during the meeting. The purpose of a school board meeting is to do the district's business. The board already has a public participation section of the meeting for people to address the board. Public participation, whether in person or over the internet, raises First Amendment issues. Specifically, the school board cannot decide what questions to answer or allow participation based on content. The district is also limited by the First Amendment in removing or deleting posts on Facebook. So I think the council did raise some significant concerns about, how would you handle these questions? You can't edit them, the First Amendment rights, and Michelle can explain better. We talked about not necessarily doing a Facebook Live format, but doing more of a format where we would buy some technological equipment that would allow us to literally, I guess what's the term, broadcast it through our website, and it would not be interactive, but people could go to the website and ask questions by going to our email address. And we could also use that same kind of technology to go to, let's say you had a robotics competition, or you had destination imagination competition. You could use that same kind of technology so long as they had the electricity to supply them, and then the, what do you call them, a hotspot for Wi-Fi. So I believe what council was saying is that we should be somewhat careful about the Facebook Live because of the questions that you'd be answered and the First Amendment rights and things. So that's how I would interpret that.
Does the Board of Selectmen have kind of this, do they kind of live by the same rules as us? Because I know that they're broadcasting their Facebook Live, they're broadcasting their meetings, and one of the selectmen just said, we just say we're not taking questions, we can't take those questions.
Well, you wouldn't take them at the meeting.
Yeah.
The concern
Or
is.
we're not accepting those questions, I guess.
But then why would you ask people questions if you're not going to answer them?
We're not asking them questions. We're just using it as a vehicle to broadcast the meetings.
It's an interactive vehicle, yes?
You don't have to. That's what they're doing.
Well, the Boxcast
I don't know
can
enough about it
also,
to ask the right
can
questions.
also post on Facebook and other.
Can they post
Other
simultaneously?
You
I
can
wasn't
take
clear on that.
I wouldn't live stream simultaneously to Facebook with it, but I would.
You can upload it
the-
later.
You can upload it in an instant. I mean, you can set it to upload automatically, you could set it to upload YouTube automatically. It solves a problem, it also solves the problem of, people who don't go on Facebook, but would like, don't have cable, but would like to see the meetings. It's instant, it's live, it's there, and it draws those people now to our website. Because we want people to use our website,
Right.
we want them to look around. It's portable, it can go anywhere, we could get more than one device, one we could leave here, one we could bring to the school, the kids could, the athletics department could use it. It would be wonderful to see the robotics competition streaming live, things like that. I mean, it's not really much of a cost, it's not that bad, the cost. It's $2.99 for the device and we own it. And then it's a subscription for our website company will host and store and archive all those records. The videos are ours to do what we want with. They'll hold them for a year. We can download them all, put them in an archive, and keep them on the website for as long as we want.
The other thing I liked about it too was that you can set filters on it so that it's only broadcast within a certain area. So we could set it to broadcast just to Litchfield, and that way we're not broadcasting live in London and having people all over
Is
the
that
globe.
based on
commenting
IP
in.
address? Is that how
I'm
that
not
works?
sure how that
Well, it
works.
also, it solves the problem of people who comment. They could very well send an email to the board's email. Now they're on record, and we know who they are, right? So we don't have to go into Facebook profiles and stuff.
So you can shut off the comment section, like I can't put "I hate Corey's" shirt.
That's
and it
right.
will be out there.
That's right.
I love gingham, by the way.
No, you can't put the Corey shirt.
I love Corey's shirt.
too.
But it's out there. Do you know what I mean? It's out there. Can you shut that off that people can't make?
Yes,
I love
won't have
that.
problem. The other problem you won't have is trolling, what they call trolling.
Right.
Yes.
People can't take, even if you live stream on YouTube, but there's no comments, or Facebook and there's no comments, they can take part of that video and take it out of context. With this particular venue, they can't.
That's awesome.
We control everything from, let's say, the SOU or the school board. Whoever the administrator is has the control, which I think might even be better in the long run.
I wonder too if the town would, down the line, if Facebook Live is bound to come up with data mining issues and legality problems just based on how Facebook is going right now. I wonder if it's something the town would take on, and kind of share and.
I don't see why we couldn't split the costs.
That's
for the subscription.
But
If
would
they
we
decide
have
to.
to sign off, like, there are kids that can't be photographed, like, we would sign off saying
No matter what social media or streaming venue you use, you have to approve. Parents have to approve to let the kids be videoed.
so that would, limit it, but that'll be fine for us.
At DI and things like that, you could focus on the actual, performances
Right.
of your kids, so long as their parents had given you permission to do that. Clearly, you can't if a parent objects to that.
Right. Cool.
The robotics, you could focus on the actual robotic structure that was
You
built.
can use sporting events.
I love that.
You could stream,
Sporting
you could
events.
stream any game you wanted to.
And, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. The other thing, I think you might have seen it, they could actually, if they streamed every game, they could actually sell
Tickets. I saw that.
Oh, like online
So
tickets
people who
to it?
can't go can still watch it and support their sports.
That's cool.
So,
Yeah, you can charge a ticket fee.
fundraising.
Yay!
I think the biggest advantage by going streaming on our own website rather than Facebook is, again, the comments, you don't know where they're coming from. But this allows us also to receive emails, we know who they're coming from, and then will allow us to answer those questions. 'cause it's coming to the school board, email address or to the school, and then we can get answers for it.
Accountability. No anonymity or whatever the word is.
Anonymity.
We'll put a shareable link on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just to back up, would you, after the fact, post it to Facebook still? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I haven't been. I've been kind of slacking off lately. But what I usually do is post the link to the YouTube video once it's posted on YouTube, or just kind of a highlights.
That was,
Get back
the budget committee, the selectman representative was pushing for all three committees to use. I think Facebook Live, and the budget committee, I think, was gonna ask council.
Yeah.
So when I go back, I can say
Yeah, again, my concern with Facebook is just the whole comment thing, and also it puts us in a situation where if you go back and then take a look at Facebook Live and you start seeing all these comments, it's just a matter of time before someone responds to one of them that they shouldn't respond to. You can respond as an individual, you can't respond as the board.
Right.
And like you said, the misinformation. I mean, the misinformation on Facebook abounds.
But it's
and
easy.
we'd rather have people ask questions so that we can give them the right information.
And again, when you're acting anonymously, it's real easy to say anything you want on Facebook.
And the other piece with Facebook is how do you control the geographical area that the Facebook is going to? And how do you know where the comments are coming? Are they really coming from the taxpayers and the citizens of Litchfield, or are they coming from who knows where? And I think
It's scary.
that offers a, potentially very challenging kind of environment for you.
I think when Facebook came up, it I think opened up my eyes anyway, realizing that many people don't have cable.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
really what it is, we're just trying to get them access to watching our meetings. And this will get access to anyone who wants to watch our meeting, just go onto our website. You don't necessarily have to go on Facebook. It seems like more people these days will either drop in Facebook, staying away from Facebook.
We can also share a link to it, like when we're about to go live, you can watch us here, so we can help communicate it through Facebook. And I think it takes us one more step closer to, transparency, which seems to be a goal, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I did a lot of research on schools.
So Michelle, my only question was,
Country.
and I don't know if in your research, as far as like the camera, like how much of an area does it cover?
Well, that was one of my first questions to the representative at Boxcast. I said, we have a multi-camera setup. He said, oh, that works with it, so don't worry about that. It plugs in, that's it, it's done. If you're transporting it to another location, you have to have a camera. Like if you're filming games.
But let's say we're in this
So
room.
in here, it'll pick up the feed from all those angles. Yeah.
You can't just do it from a phone and it doesn't attach to a phone if you're at a sporting event or anything?
It has to have a power source, it has to be connected to the equipment, and it has, or Wi-Fi, and it has to, have an internet connection, whether it be Wi-Fi or plug-in, so that it can pick up the feed and send it over the internet.
So really, the cable committee needs to be involved for...
Yes, and I already ran it by the lead cable engineer a year ago, actually, and he checked into it, and it's compatible with everything. He said it'd be very easy to do.
What were the concerns a year ago? Did this ever come to the
There weren't,
board?
it just kind of fell by the wayside.
So I think going the streaming part, like I said, on our website, is probably a better direction to go into than Facebook.
Absolutely.
And it would still be on the cable channel. It would still
Correct.
be broadcast on cable.
It's still going to be broadcast on cable, but those who don't have cable.
Provides more options.
And when you consider that 60% of the board itself doesn't have cable. And I think the other thing that's good about it is we have a lot of teachers who don't live in the community. We have a lot of people who work for the schools who don't live in this community, who can just go onto our website and then they can watch them. And get a little bit more involved. Right. So I'm gonna make a motion to have Jim or whoever or Corey get into a contract with, I'm not even sure what it's called, we'll say Boxcast here, is that who it is?
Yeah.
to set up and get going here as far as doing live streaming.
What is the cost?
It's around $2,000 for the year.
Can I just ask real quick?
$2.99 for the device, and then you own it, that's one time, you only have to pay that once, and it's $15.59 for the year, for the service, which is only equates to a little over $100 a month, so.
Can I just ask real quick, have we looked into like Google Hangouts or, free streaming services? Just, I don't know.
You should look somewhere else besides the superintendent.
We tried that at the budget committee level, and it didn't work out very well. It was, the person on the other end couldn't hear, and then he had trouble being able to see, and you have to have a front-facing camera, and it's
Yeah, we had some. I think we had some connectivity issues
we
too.
had
in that
connectivity
room.
issues. We had a lot of issues that night. It was an interesting little
But
experience.
we have money
as
in
we're
the budget
going,
to be
as
able
we're
to do this?
becoming a Google district, I think is that I don't know anything about it. Is that a thing? I mean, is that something that we could use?
I'd used it a little bit when we first switched to Google in my district, but it got into too many problems with, students with do not photograph.
We can check with Jason, the IT, and he's already been.
I just wondered because it's free.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
And we didn't have a setup like this. We were using handheld devices, so I just didn't know. I was trying to look it up real quick.
Yeah, we can ask Jason again, but he's already seen this information and, thinks it's a pretty good deal and will serve our needs very well. So like I said, I made a motion to go ahead with this. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Can we go back to discussion part?
Sure.
Just want to make sure we've visited all of our, everything, all the possible avenues. I think this is great. I think, I'm very excited about that. I just want to, like, you bringing up Google and,
I think to piggyback, I guess my concern is the way technology's changing so quick.
Right.
If we're gonna drop this amount of money and find out a year from now it doesn't meet our need, I just
Yeah.
wonder what.
Yeah, this is already a year old, right? This information that we have.
The one, no, actually, it's, this is from the other day.
Oh, okay. You're very quick.
I'm sorry. Well, I was on the phone with the representative for an hour, and he shared a video with me that explains a lot about Boxcast that I could share with the board, if you'd like. I mean, we've got until, they can renew, they gave us a quote that runs out at the end of the month, but I'm sure they'll renew the quote and extend it.
I see, okay.
But if the board does approve it, and you want to go in that direction, we could be live in a week, so.
That's the only other question I'd have would go back to the budget committee and the selectmen. Is it worth just meeting, letting them know to see if there's.
If there's interest there.
Just, it seems to me, if all three are using different formats, it's a little, if the selectmen stay on Facebook Live and whatever the budget committee decides, it just seems now you've got 3 different wheels spinning there.
Could we split it with them?
Well, that's what I'm wondering, if we're gonna do it, if they're willing, it sounds like the budget committee's looking into it with their council. Could we put it off, until the next meeting, so we could at least touch base with them and see if they're interested
See
in
if we're
looking
all on the
into
same
it?
page.
Well, it sounds like the selectmen are staying with Facebook.
Yeah, it seemed pretty.
I mean, I couldn't hear the audio and I haven't
I
seen the
haven't.
YouTube about it, but I understand that John Brunel was pretty adamant about the school changing to Facebook Live. And like I said, for different reasons, I'm not comfortable as far as with Facebook Live. Now, whether or not there's something else out there that's less expensive, again, I think this fills the needs, what we're looking for. We can go back to Jason and ask Jason again if there's something else out there as far as streaming and, something else we can do.
Did you talk to Jason at all, Michelle?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I talked to him about Facebook Live, I talked to him about other venues, like, Skype and stuff like that. Well, Skype carries a cost when you're streaming for a business. Google Hangouts, Hangouts is fine as long as everybody can get in on that link. And then you run a bandwidth problem. If too many people have a cell phone, if too many people are trying to get in, it disrupts the feed. This is a dedicated feed. It's, well, you're paying for it, so. It's a dedicated feed. It's portable. The updates are not gonna cost any money, so, you know, everything is included in that contract. All the specs are included. Jason, I did share it with Jason. He had seen it before, and he was looking it over again. We could even ask him to come in if you'd like to ask him any questions. I'm sure he'd be happy to answer them. He's more technical than I am. So.
I like the idea of it, but it's the price.
Well, you pay your website every year too.
Yeah.
I know, I'm thinking about how to recoup some of those costs through those tickets that you mentioned, you know?
Right.
Like, what games would people, like, if they couldn't go to, want to pay
not a bad
$5
idea.
to see, or something like that, you know?
So do you want to get Jason here for the next meeting to discuss other opportunities or options?
I think ideally, I mean, I prefer the box cast to the Facebook Live for like the reasons we mentioned. I would like to see everybody on the same page and on the same, you know, sharing those costs, and
I mean, the budget committee and the
I would. I mean, have we had that conversation with them? Have we offered this to
You
them?
said John was pretty adamant at the budget committee?
At the budget committee, the selectman rep seemed pretty adamant that we weren't using, well, why we weren't.
Is he
using
the engineer of the cable committee?
No, that was Dick Pentheny and Russ Blanchett. But the Board of Selectmen, I guess, you know, I don't know. You know what? I'm not even gonna answer. I don't know.
You don't
say
say
that
that very often.
Would it be a decision for the cable committee?
I don't know whose decision that is. I'm taking it that it's the Board of Selectmen, but I don't know. And there's no guarantee that they'll go in on the cost. So.
No, I understand that. I'd like to see more cooperation and partnership with municipal committees as well. So, you know, if we can.
Well, I'm sure what they're looking at Facebook is free.
Hmm?
I'm sure what they're looking at Facebook is free. To some degree.
I mean, I am not a computer person, but when the legal counsel gives you, the board already has a public participation section of the meeting for people to address the board. Public participation, whether in person or over the internet, raises First Amendment issues. Specifically, the board cannot decide what questions to answer or allow participation based on content, and the district is also limited by the First Amendment rights in removing or deleting posts on Facebook. That gives me a moment of concern.
That almost makes me, that almost sounds to me if we answer one, we have to answer all.
Right.
That is correct.
Yeah, there's
You have
exhibit
you
two.
have no editing capacity, nor do you have a capacity if they're inappropriate questions or questions that we deem to be, let's just say, edgy. You can't remove those because you're violating First Amendment rights. I don't know enough about it, except when I read those 2-3 sentences, it gives me a little bit of a pause for concern. It seems to me that if we take the active position of, I don't know what we call live streaming through a proprietary software that we use, and we can control it more, I think it may be a little bit more cost to us. But I think it may also, if you take a look at the number of hours you're going to spend with questions and with trying to figure out what happened on Facebook, it may not be advisable. And again, I don't claim any deep depth of knowledge here. I just have the words here give me pause for concern.
Just because it's free doesn't mean you're not paying in some other way. And that's one of the things Katie Greer said when she was doing her parent presentation is just because Facebook Live is free because you're not paying an upfront cost, but you're paying in other ways. You're paying in likes and they're collecting data on usage for everything that is posted.
And we see with what's going on Facebook today how that data can quickly migrate to places that shouldn't have that data.
Right.
So anyway, I won't say any more. I've said my piece. Thank you.
So do we want to hear from Jason?
Personally, I'd just rather more touch base with the budget committee at least, and maybe the selectmen, just to say, hey, there's what our council said, we have concerns, this is the route we're thinking of going.
I'll take back my motion then.
I mean, is that okay with, I mean,
Well,
Yeah,
I think, you know,
I
if
agree.
we look at it too as a positive thing, and we're not taking anything away from them, but we're sharing our concerns and, you know, looking out for them too.
and I did look,
In my mind.
I just looked up our, I mean, the reviews for this Boxcast are, different tech sites are great, so.
Right.
Yeah. I can reach out to Cindy and ask her what she's found out and let her know what we found out, and see if maybe they wanna go in with us. Just keep in mind, the budget committee doesn't have a budget,
I was just gonna say that.
Yeah.
Oh.
but still, if they wanna, piggyback with us,
Well, if it's,
If it's the
if
town.
it's 2 out of 3.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's possible the town would want to
it
too.
makes sense 3 out of 3, if that's the case.
It's possible, I mean, it depends what the
It's
town's
worth a
looking for.
shot.
I want to make the emphasis that we are trying to be as transparent as we possibly can and allow as many citizens in Litchfield to view and comment on what we're doing and give us suggestions about how to improve what we're doing. And we absolutely are open to that, but with Facebook, I just don't know, where do the comments stop? How far does it travel? What do we wind up dealing with First Amendment issues? But by no means are we trying to avoid transparency. That is the primary goal of this.
That's true.
So I'll talk with Cindy and I'll talk with Jason and see if there's something else, and then we'll bring it back at the next meeting. Excellent. All right. That'll bring us to community forum. All right. School board comments? Anyone?
I mentioned Katie Greer just a few moments ago, and I just wanted to thank the board and the district support in bringing her in to talk to our students and our families in our community. I was able to kind of stalk her all day and follow her around from school to school, and so I was able to see all of her presentations. She started at the high school and talked to every student, grades K through 12 throughout the day. So for the most part, it was really eye-opening. It was eye-opening for me to see how many of our kindergarten through second graders have Instagram and Facebook accounts and Snapchat accounts and their own devices. I think the kids really, it sparked a lot of conversations at home for us, and I'm hoping it did for other families too. So that was great. I wasn't able to make the Lynn Lyons presentation on Monday night, but I heard that was really well received, and the word on the Facebook is that it was really, really well done, and people are really grateful for those opportunities. So thank you.
Good. Anyone else?
I looked around a little. Do we have a fundraising policy of any type? We do?
Mhm.
I was just wondering, it just seems, with a small town, with a limited number of business we have, there's a lot going on from different teams.
Yeah.
I just didn't know if that's something we need to look at sometime to maybe corral a little bit. Just, this week answering the door and, so what's this for stuff? Well, whatever.
Yeah.
Not a lot of, I just wondered about that when I saw the number going on.
It's always been in this town. I mean, it's, every time you turn the corner, there's.
Yeah.
It's a coupon book.
Raising money for something.
Coupon book, cards, I just, I
One thing
worry.
you'll find about this town, they're very giving also, so.
Yeah.
Yes.
I agree with you. I have that concern too, hearing about the gardening project, asking for donations, and, the teams in town, the different groups, student groups, classes. There's a lot of, there's always something being funded or being requested.
We certainly, you can go on and get the policy. We certainly can
Yeah.
forward it to you, and then if there's concern the board has about the current policy, they can certainly put it on the table.
It's on the flash drive. It's a policy manual.
You haven't gone through that whole flash drive and memorized it yet?
It's a test.
I am disappointed.
Brian, do I have to send Cindy that email, or are you gonna send it?
Which one?
About the budget committee for the Boxcast?
No, I'm not talking about it.
Okay.
So next, we have minutes from April 4th, 2018 for approval.
Motion to approve the minutes from April 14th, 2018.
April 4th.
Is that what I said? I'm sorry, April 4th, 2018.
Is there a second?
Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. Okay. Next, the score's got a big list of budget transfers for us.
Yeah. Yeah, they just need board approval. Nothing, unless anyone has any questions on any in particular. I can try it.
So it all equals out, right? Everything that's a negative has a positive.
Yes.
There were some that were different
Has to.
amounts, but I was like, they equal out. Just checking.
Is there a motion?
Oh, I'm sorry, I'll make a motion to approve the budget transfers.
I second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. That, I believe will bring us back to Mr. Ronigan. I think you've seen that, like, the information that, has already been sent to the board as far as this, where it was triggered from, that someone had sent a letter, because there was a report that came out in the state that we readying our high school students for college, or once they get to college, they have to start taking courses over again.
Yep.
Because of not, so.
So is it concern about the AP courses, or is it concern about the students who graduate and how well they're doing in college? There's two parts.
Yeah, I think we can start with the second part, I think, was where the question came from, or the
Okay.
concern.
Sure. So, did you see the National Student Clearinghouse information? Did you get that information? Okay. So, one of the things that, first of all, just to start with, that group is a group that looks at 97.7% of the colleges and universities in the country, 2- and 4-year colleges, and sort of gather data on students who are there and whose students who are staying there and their success levels. So when you look through that document, the numbers are really, they're kind of intriguing to me and concerning to me. A piece of what I thought was really kind of decent is if you look at the students who are going to college out of Campbell right away, it's around 75% of our students on average over the years. If you look, however, at what types of schools they're going to, they give you great information on that. If you look at the back of it, they talk about the schools that we're sending students to, and they're great schools. But where the sort of sticky wicket comes in there is whether or not they're staying there and graduating, when they're graduating. So I don't know if you saw the whole document, all 45 pages.
Yeah, I wish I had seen the charts first.
Yes. If you,
Instead of reading through all the data.
Sure, and I actually combed through that pretty carefully over a couple of days, and I thought, okay, there's some great stuff in there if you start from the beginning and go through. Our kids they're going on to college. That's a real strong priority here, but I know that that's a strong priority in Litchfield for kids to go on to 2- and 4-year colleges. I think it misses some of the information for the kids who go on to become hairdressers. That's not included in there. Somebody who goes to a tractor-trailer school or who goes to a trade school, they're not included in there. So you miss some of that information, but those kids are going on to better their lives, to get an education, to make themselves sort of members of the communities, working hard and doing what they need to do to be successful. Going back to the college piece, though, in looking through this, one of the things that sort of struck me a little bit was whether or not kids stay. Okay, and if you look at what they tell you about statistics for kids in colleges, freshman year is a tough year. Okay, but those kids who generally make it through into their second year in high school, generally they have a pretty high success rate. But what we're seeing more and more is we're seeing the students who are, we're taking not 4 years, 5
5 or
years,
6.
and 6 years, and even more in some cases. And I think as you look in the latter pieces of the document, that's where it gets a little bit challenging in terms of figuring out, okay, what's going on with our students. So I don't know if you have a particular place you want me to start in, or if you want me to just dig in and scratch away at some of the details.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, all right, so it's gonna be dry.
We'll try to stay with you.
What's that?
We'll try to stay with you.
Sure, no, well, okay. 75% of our kids on average go to school their first year, okay? Breakdown on that, it's about generally somewhere around 20, somewhere between 20 and 13% go to two-year colleges, okay? Somewhere between 54 and 55% go to four-year colleges. A great mix there, okay? But generally, it's the four-year colleges that the kids are going to, which is great to see. Typically in school, in-state, those numbers are higher. They're going to in-state schools versus going to out-of-state schools. In terms of kids who then, we're talking there about the kids who go to college right away, starting in August. Those numbers jump up 2 to 6% of kids who go somewhere after the first semester, start the second semester. So the number actually increases up to 80% of our kids end up going to school. It's a great number, real solid number. Public school versus private. Public schools, they jump up somewhere between 1 to 4%. Private schools tend to stay pretty flat, 0 to 1% in terms of the increase of kids who go to those schools. My thinking is they go to Keene, Plymouth, the technical schools, community colleges, places like that. If you look at 4-year versus 2-year colleges, typically it stays relatively even, okay, in terms of whether or not they go to, 4-year versus 2-year, it's relatively even in terms of where they go. If you look at students who then, so here we're talking kids who go anytime their first year. If you look at students who go anytime first and second year, we actually increases up to 84% of our kids actually go on to school. Okay, and that's over the last 7 to 8 years. That's typically what the number is. So we're seeing a fairly large number of our kids who are going on to school.
So you think a kids take a year off and then decide to go to school?
Yeah, I think
save money.
I think the gap year,
yeah.
I think the gap year, absolutely.
Yeah, that is more popular now.
When we do our end of the year surveys with students, there's usually two to three students who write, I'm taking a gap year. Gap year, yeah. So that's I think that's really what that is. Students who are taking a gap year, they want to work or they want to travel. You know, so I think that's a piece of what we're
So
seeing.
we don't think that speaks to their readiness.
What's that?
That doesn't necessarily speak to their readiness for college. It's more of a
Bank
family
account
choice.
thing?
I think it's a choice. I think it's financial.
Yeah.
I don't think. Well, okay. Let me say this. It might be maturity readiness.
That's fine. Yeah.
I think
Yeah,
in my case,
that's
I should
fair.
have waited a year.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's a piece of it. Is one, it's maturity for some. It's also earning money. I think there's. We had, I think last year, somebody who said, I want to travel, I want to visit places, I want to see some things. Yeah. Yep. If you look at any time in those first 2 years, public schools, that's where you see the increase, going to public colleges and universities. Private schools, it's a much smaller number of those kids. It's about 0.5% of the kids who wait to go into school go to private schools. If you look at 4-year schools versus 2-year schools, 4-year schools is pretty flat. It's about a 1% increase there. If you look at 2-year schools, it's a little bit more. A little bit less than a 1% increase. If you look at in-state versus out-of-state for those 2-year students, in-states it's about a 1%, out-of-state it's about 1%. Okay, so that's relatively close. That isn't that significant. but here's where we kind of get to the piece that I think is important to talk about. And it's, if you're looking at the document, it's on page 17. This is where we get to the persistence factor. And at other places, one of the things they really want to know from high schools in terms of colleges, and I know this when I was in college, I went to Northeastern my first year. Persistence rate there was about 50%. That's what they anticipated. Now, this was back in 1981, and Northeastern accepted everybody. It was a mill, you know, so it was one of those, maybe that doesn't say much about me, but they had a high percentage of students who dropped out their first year. We know if kids stay in college through their sophomore year, generally they're going to be more successful. And if you look at on page 17 and 18, it's really interesting because with our kids, the numbers of our kids who go to private schools, we have a mid-90% range of kids who go on to their second year in those private schools. It ranges from 96, there's an anomaly in there one year, 82, 96, 92%, 100%, 95% in private schools who go on to their second year. If you look at the public schools, it's a little less, but it's still high, 87, 82, 85, 81, 89, 81. So when you look at those numbers, we have students, and this is between 2010 and 2015, we have students who are staying in for the second year of school. That's terrific. Yeah, really good. You can break that down further and you can look at 4-year schools and 2-year schools. 4-year schools, it's really high, 95 to 91 to 94, really good. If you look at 2-year schools, it's 60s to 70%. A little less successful in the 2-year schools, and I'm not sure what the reason for that is, but it's not nearly as successful as the students going on to 4-year schools. If you look at out of state, those numbers are really high, 97, 95, 91%, 100%, 8, 97, 89. Okay, terrific. In state, a little lower, 86%, 75, 91, 78, 90, 84. So there's something there in terms of the in-state schools and our kids' success. I mean, I remember back when Plymouth was the party school in the country, you know, so there's that freshman year and what kids are doing there and that type of thing. But even so, if when you look at those numbers, those are really healthy numbers of the students who are going on. But then you get a little further on and you look at the numbers who complete their degree within 6 years. And this was really, for me, it was disappointing. And I was almost questioning the validity of the data as I read it. 61% completed their degree within 5 years, within 6 years. And now these were only for 2 years. Okay, this is only for 2010, 2011, and 57% for 2011. I can't make sense of that. And if I am making sense of that, I'm wondering what it means for our students. Huge numbers have made it through freshman year into sophomore year. And yet, when you start looking at this, you start saying, well, what's going on? What is this factual? This is a reputable organization that provides the information to us. You know? So I don't know what to make of that. And when you look further on, you see more of that same information that's similarly frustrating. They break it down into the, if you look at page 27, and it's 27 to read this, and now this is for associates, bachelors, and higher. And again, this is 2010, 2011. Are yours color coded? Are you seeing color coded?
Yes.
Okay. So when you look at 2010, all right, and you look at the reddish pinkish color at the bottom, 5% graduated in 2 years or less. So it sounds to me like students came out of Campbell, went into a two-year program, and probably already had a head start on some of the things that they not wanted to do. Graduating in 3 years, interesting. But if you look at those numbers, 5, 4, 9, 32, 14, you add those totals up, you know, you're talking about, what, 55, 60% of the kids, which is, there's that number, 60%, 50% in the other category. my concern is all those other kids here who aren't reflected in where they are. When you go into the next sections, and this is where you can get really confused, okay? But it's pretty powerful information here. And this is the class of 2010. This is on page 29. And these are those students who graduated in 2010 and where they are as of 2016 and 17. And I actually kind of stopped looking at the bottom of the chart, and really what I looked at as I looked across is the top of each column, the purple and the goldish yellow combined. And if you look at those are the students who either never went into a 2-year or 4-year college, which is the purple, and then the yellowish one is those who are no longer enrolled and graduated. And if you total those up going across, okay, you look at the first column there, it's 20.5% of our kids didn't go to a 2 or 4-year college. Okay, this is at 2010-11, in that first year out of high school. You look at the next column, you see 16.2% and 7.7%. We're up to 23.9% of our students here who are not in school. If you follow that across, and I'll read the numbers, you don't have to add them up, I already did. We go from the initial 20.5 to 23.9, 24.8, 25.6, 27.4, 31.6, and then down a little bit to 30.8. Looks like somebody persisted here. But when I looked at those numbers, I thought, wow. Okay? Now, the opposite side of that is there's 70% of our kids who are completing and finishing college and doing well. And maybe this speaks to college isn't for everybody. Maybe it speaks to lack of preparation. I can't speak to that because I've just begun at Campbell, so I'm not sure what that preparation looked like previously. But when you read across the class of 2010, you go to the next group, which is 2011. 2011, the class, 11.7 kids didn't go on to a 2 or 4-year college. However, then you go to those kids who didn't stay, you're up to 27.5. It stayed at 27.5. It went to 28.3. It went to 35% and went to 35.8%. That's a lot of students who aren't being, either they're not going on to college or those not being successful in college. And I'm struggling with that. I think this is a town that values college opportunities for their kids. And I don't, what I'd like to know is where those students have ended up, okay, which we can't infer and can't read into this to see where they have gone and what they're doing. You know, they may be like a family member of mine who dropped out of high school but is making 3 times the money I had because he figured it out later on and he's not recorded in those statistics. You know, but it's frustrating for me to read this because each class, each grade you go through, you see similar numbers. So I don't know at this point, I can't believe that our kids aren't ready for college based on the teaching that I'm seeing and based on their sort of the rigor that I see. We have students accepted to places like Cornell, West Point, you know, WPI, RIT, terrific schools, UNH. But these numbers speak to some concerns about how well our students are doing as they leave. And what's interesting, Jody tried to and has tried to survey students from Campbell's perspective as opposed to relying on the clearinghouse. The challenge with that is we can do that through Naviance, but students responding to their emails when they're out of high school and giving us valuable information coming back it's challenging to get some meaningful information on that.
Do we survey alumni families?
What's that?
Do we survey graduate families, moms and dads of kids that have graduated?
We do. We let me think on that. I'm not sure that we do. Yeah, I don't believe we do. Yeah, I'd have to ask Jay on that.
Bill, is there a way to get state averages for these numbers?
For these, you know what? I couldn't tell you on that. I can't tell you off the top of my head. I
Yeah,
can
I mean,
tell you by talking to Jody and finding
yeah,
out
because this gives you a snapshot of one school. I'm just curious what the average is.
what it looks like across,
Yeah.
well, across New Hampshire would be nice. I mean, that's the one thing with the AP scores is, you have AP scores, you can compare them, you can look at your school, you can also look at your state, and then you can also look globally how students have done. I'm not sure if that's available for this, but I will,
We're also probably looking at pretty small sample sizes
Exactly.
here. I mean,
Yeah.
are they stated somewhere? I mean, I just, maybe if you don't survey a couple people, your numbers could change
Yeah.
very
I'm
much.
just trying to figure out
year
how to
year.
reach out. Jack, what year did you graduate? 2015? How would I reach out to you? Instagram? Snapchat? Facebook? Does your class have a page?
We do a page or a group.
I don't know if that's valid.
I'm not sure how many, I'm not sure, one, how many you'd get.
Yeah,
And then two,
they're on WhatsApp page.
they are.
Graduates, they are out there.
I think this is useful in just getting a sense of what's going on, because the clearinghouse clearly is providing us a lot of information from all sorts of schools around the country. So typically, there's 2.3% of students who aren't being accounted for in this, and there may be some private school somewhere that don't want to give up that information, I'm not sure. But you're right. What does this look like? You know what? I don't know off the top of my head, but I think an organization like this could probably provide that information.
I would think.
Yeah, I think,
I think that'd be more helpful, rather than like looking at it and getting shocked, like, wow, we only have X amount of students
Yeah.
graduating. Maybe that's the norm.
Well, and this,
well,
and
we
these,
have, everybody graduates,
Talking about
90
college.
Yeah.
From college.
Oh, from college, I'm sorry, yeah. I was
but
thinking-
that's also only 2 classes. That's only 2 cohorts. So,
Yes, correct.
there's a lot of variability there, and and like you said, the class sizes.
Yeah.
It's hard to take a trend away from that.
And we only hear about kids that drop out the first year. And then we assume they go off and live a happy life, being well prepared from the Litchfield School District. We don't know how many kids
Right.
graduate.
And
Yeah.
people.
There's a percentage of kids just
Yeah.
generally that will get into college, and it's not for them.
Well,
Oh,
that's the thing.
And it's not that they
I mean,
weren't ready.
Everybody
Yes.
defines success differently.
Exactly.
So, maybe we get better data on how we're doing if we poll alumni families and say, hey, contact your kid and have them send us an email and tell us how they're doing. Because like you mentioned, there are those kids who don't go on to college and they're highly successful. And,
Oh, absolutely.
so college isn't the only indicator of readiness.
No, it's
Or
not.
success.
No.
Do
And
we
well,
measure
yeah.
our alumni in a non-college setting, like the number of people that go on to the military, the number of people that go on to, I don't know, trades, or,
Sure.
I know there's been discussions online about, that kind of thing, and measuring success in other ways
Well, and
as well
and
as
that's,
this.
yeah, that sort of brings me down a kind of a road I'd like to go down, which is the students who go to CTE programs, the students who get engaged and interested in other things that aren't your typical college-bound pathways. And they are great pathways for a lot of those people, without necessarily being accounted for within these types of systems.
Right.
Yeah.
Be happy if my kid was a plumber.
Oh, absolutely.
I would be very happy.
Absolutely.
I'll buy him a van.
Yep. Yep. Electrician.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
both of them.
Yep.
That would be a dream team.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow.
So what I will do is I'll talk with Jody, and I'll see if she can go back to the clearinghouse and find out whether or how we get information. One, to look at what we compare with.
Or they can even just consolidate within the state, the schools they've done.
Yeah, right. Yep.
That's true.
Yeah. Other questions?
Well, the big question that came from that posting, and I don't know where it was from. The Concord Monitor, Nat, someone came
the
out with.
article, NPR, I think it
Oh,
was.
right.
And I know that Jody already answered the question, that we have no way of telling once students go to college,
Mm-hmm.
you know, whether or not they have to retake a particular course, Spanish one, or
Yeah.
whatever it was.
None whatsoever. Yeah, yeah. And that would be my hope, yeah.
And I would think of anything as a student also, that if I'm going to college and I didn't do that well in this particular course, I'd probably want to take it over again.
Well, correct, right. What are the gaps I'm missing here?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I have no way of knowing that. No.
But somehow this NPR report measured students coming out of high school and transferring to college.
Yep.
And not being ready.
Well, and that is why at the technical colleges, they give the Accuplacer test to students to find out, okay, are you ready to take these courses? You know, but I'm not sure, oh, right. I'm fairly certain they wouldn't give me school-specific information if I called up to the technical college about how well my students are in.
Right.
And whether they need to take a test. I don't know.
Yeah.
You could get that.
I could. All right.
Well, one thing I read from the AP 5-year school score summary, which I had never seen before, is that they say that, you know, if you get a 3 or higher on your test or exam, that has been proven over the years to be a indicator of success. I believe it's like in the disclosure up at the top. So,
Yep.
no, so that our kids are well prepared for calculus. That's what I learned from that. They're like, we are rocking it with calculus, and that's what makes us
Yes, we are.
do really better than the state averages.
AP Bio, we've had some
Bio
success
and
with
calculus,
bio.
yeah.
Environmental studies,
Yeah.
we've had some success with, AP US History. There are some numbers I'd like to see improve. I think there's a piece of that conversation which is about getting additional teachers trained, okay? And I have a teacher who this year we're going to send to a summer AP institute, who wants to teach the English literature and composition course. So he's gonna go up there. It's not cheap, it's about $850 for the course, and then it's either travel back and forth or $500, probably $1,400-1,500. But it's well worth sending teachers to that. When you look at those AP courses, they're very prescribed curriculum. You have to follow the curriculum to the end. I mean, because there's so many things in there, which is the rigor of the class. In our kids, in a number of those classes do really well, and I think that in some of them, we've got to step up our game a little bit.
What's concerning to me is that we spend a lot of resources on these AP courses, and parents pay the fee to take the test, and to see students, you know, we have we offer a lot of courses, but many of them have, fewer than 5 students
Yes.
who take the test.
Yeah.
And then to see so many 1s and 2s,
That's concerning
that's
to me.
very concerning to me.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, if I can step back just a minute, it was interesting. I received some information on Wyndham and their AP program. They have about 920 students. They administer 103 computer science AP tests alone. They administer a total of 500 AP exams in their school. We're going to administer about 123 AP exams this year, okay, for 475 students. So we do administer a fair amount. I would like to continue doing that. I would like to see more success.
And I'm assuming that, I'm hoping that there are students in these courses that don't take the test.
There are.
Okay,
Yes, there are.
so we're not running a class of 3 kids
No,
or
no,
one
no,
student?
no. In fact, some of those numbers there, one was a student who did it on VLAX.
Okay, that was my next question.
One was a student who did it on VLAX, and several others were students who did it within a course. For example, you can take the Project Lead the Way Computer Science 2 and Computer Science 3, and that will qualify you to take the AP exam. So we have a couple of students who are taking that class within another class, and they're going to take the AP exam this year, so I'll have some numbers on computer science, on the AP computer science test for a couple of students this year. Yes, we get a little tricky sometimes in terms of how we manage the numbers. But we try to, like with most classes, you want to try to run with as many students as possible.
Right.
And I actually have numbers here for this year. So I can give you the enrollment numbers, if I can find that amongst my papers here. But we're running seven courses this year, 7 formal AP courses, and I'm not sure where I put it. The numbers are really healthy though. I think we have one small class of 8 students. Other than that, we're talking 16, 18. We actually had to break 2 sections up from 30, which are really large class sizes, 50 classes, had to break those up. So the numbers are much better than what they've been in past years. We're trying not to run them with really small amounts of students. Yeah. Find that sheet. Any questions on AP courses? Oh, here we go. Right in front of me. AP Spanish, which was, I believe, 4 or 5 last year. This is the small one. This is 8. AP Environmental, 14. AP Bio, 18. AP US History, 24. AP Calc, 28. AP Stats, 29. And AP English, 30. And the Stats with 29 and the English with 30 are 2 that we're looking at breaking down.
Wow,
Those are pretty high numbers.
those are.
Mm-hmm.
Are they all in one class? 28 calculus kids, 20 or whatever?
Yeah, yes.
That makes me crazy.
Have you looked at our stats scores?
What?
Have you looked?
No, there are some really big class sizes.
There are. Our stats courses are there, and those scores on it. One of the things you find, and this is I think one of the challenging pieces, is when I taught an AP course previously, okay, for 2 years in Florida. It was AP Language and Composition, and you don't get in your groove in that class. The first class, these kids are all smarter than you are. And you don't get in your groove until that second year. That first year, though, I had a tremendous class, and it was probably 13 or 14 students, and probably 3 5s and 4 4s, and just amazing group of kids. The next year, however, I jumped up to 27 students, and getting into my groove didn't have nearly the success I had. Okay? And part of that was the population of students I was working with. Part of that was, here I am thinking I'm in my groove, but somehow sort of that didn't translate into that being as successful a class as that smaller class was. So I think some teachers, they can take a class of 29 and work magic with them. And I think other teachers, and also other subjects, in a language course, a writing course, that's an incredible workload in terms of not just the planning and preparing,
the grading.
Correcting. Correct. And there are ways to manage your grading on that, but it's a demanding workload. Not that math teachers don't have demanding workloads, but depending on the coursework, a large class can be more challenging in some ways. Yeah.
There's a lot of information there.
That is.
I know.
I know.
I made another note about under the grad data and UNH data. Which document was that? Graduation data. SATs were extraordinarily high in 2015, and they seem like they've gone down the last couple of years. I'm trying to find that data again. Oh, there it is.
But now they're out of 1,600 instead
Oh,
of
it's
2,400.
changed.
I
Okay,
did the same
that's
thing.
why.
So
Okay,
that was a
got
red
it.
flag for me too.
There's
Okay.
1,600 versus 2,400.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
I did the same thing. What?
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
So how does that correlate? Are we still pretty?
We're still, I think math is we need to boost it up a little bit, but overall, I don't have my SAT data in front of me here. Overall, we're still doing well.
Are they coming from the middle school prepared for the high school? I'm just gonna cut right to the chase, because we have 3, we have 3 algebra classes going directly, well, some of them are going directly into geometry. That means they're, all 4 years, they're gonna have to do Algebra 2,
Yeah.
probably probability and statistics and calculus.
We're at that point where you need 4 years of math.
Right, yeah.
Math
Because
in all 4 years of high school.
Most of our kids are taking algebra in 8th grade now, and that's changes the whole flow of vertical, is that the word, alignment?
The vertical alignment,
Yeah.
yep, absolutely. It does change it. Most of those students are successful. There are a handful that are finding the challenges of high school and the rigor of high school a bit much for them. And that's a fine-tuning process between us and the middle school, and sort of figuring out how to make sure that that's a more seamless process for kids so they are successful that first year in high school, And there are challenging conversations in there.
Because I'm assuming some parents will say, my child is going to geometry. He got a C- in algebra in 8th grade, but he will be in geometry.
That's a piece of the
Yeah.
conversation, absolutely.
Okay.
Yep,
I was just
exactly.
curious.
On the flip side, I have, I hate to draw on my own personal experiences, but I have a student who's in Algebra 1 right now and has been placed in honors geometry. So she's going from an Algebra 1 course into an honors.
Right.
And the same thing has happened in science. It's great for her, it's a great opportunity for her, but I have concerns about her going into an honors level sophomore class as a freshman, 2 of them. So
Well, she'll be challenged.
What is that, biology?
Right?
Is that biology?
Well,
Yeah.
and you know what? Typically when the students, they're generally successful.
Yeah,
They are,
yeah.
because
But
they have
I know there are there are students who might be ready for a sophomore course, but not necessarily the honors option.
Right, yes.
So, and
I think you have to
Yes.
be honest with yourself and your kid. I didn't let my son take honors biology because I knew we couldn't handle it. But that's me.
But she didn't have an option to go into biology. It had to be.
She had to take
it was
yeah.
honors biology.
One of the unique things that Bill Pothier, my science CF, did.
I love him.
Okay, he's an awesome teacher, does tremendous things. But what he did is he collaborated with the middle school to deliver an assessment of sorts to the students who were moving up. And this assessment wasn't a graded assessment, but it was a piece to challenge students to look at data, to make sort of judgments about that data, and then to write some things and to answer some questions. And it was a pretty challenging assessment. And what we found with that assessment is that it has done a better job of cluing the kids on whether they think they're going to be able to handle, move up into those challenging courses. It's also provided us a sense of who the students that we've got to maybe worry about, who this may not be necessarily the best choices to look at that sophomore biology class as a classroom. And taking freshman science, the physical science, isn't a bad course, and it's a great course for many of our students, and allows them to get their challenging science courses in. And Bill did a really nice job of taking his time, going down to the middle school, doing the assessment, communicating with the teachers down there, and I think it's provided us a clearer view of how well the students are going to do as they move up into Campbell. So I think that's a piece of this that maybe that comes down the road, and I don't want it to be a placement test. That's not the way we're looking at it, but it is a way to say, okay, absolutely, let's go. Or, okay, you're going to go into this class, it's going to be challenging for you. Let's make sure that you stay on top of those things.
And
Yeah.
just wondering, are they using NEWA results for the data portion too, to put a baseline?
We do have the NEWA, yeah, actually they're looking at student grades, they're looking at NEWA, all of those things, yeah. But again, there's that sort of human piece to this as well, and what the teacher's thinking are the best, and there's also, ultimately, parent. What does the parent want for their child, And that's a part of the conversation, there's no question about that.
Well, thank you very much, Bill.
You're welcome. Yes.
You, Corey.
So what I provided in the report this month was, as you recall, back in the fall, there was the H.L. Turner report, which was the needs assessment at all 3 of our buildings. There were capital planning meetings that occurred as a result of that report being received. what I've provided was the result of those meetings, but that's where, at that point in the year, we were busy with budget, we were, working on getting full-day kindergarten ready, doing like all those types of things. This is where this report is now sitting. So I'm really here to kind of get it back on the radar to figure out, because we're gonna blink and we're gonna be in budget season again, so how do we want to address some of these items? Do we want to reconvene that committee and start moving towards planning for some of these items? So I just wanted to bring this report back to the forefront and see where we want to go from there. Does anyone have any questions on the particular report, or?
I'm trying to open it. There it is.
Yeah. So basically, the committee had identified things at all three schools, and the idea was to go forward, put a bond out to fix these major items that were in the schools. However, you had the fire station on the warrant, you had full-day kindergarten on the warrant, to put another bond out there. Pretty good likelihood that that bond's not gonna pass. So, as I said, this is where this report ended up, so just to start planning for the budget season, how we want to address some of these things.
That was part of your outreach, your Google form to reach out to the public about what they thought was important.
Yeah, that'll, when we send out a survey, we'll kind of poll what people think we need and what they would approve,
That'll give us some
basically.
direction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think,
I
we should meet as soon as possible, though. Now, like you said, budget season's done, and
yeah.
It's gonna be here
Get-
again.
Yeah.
but I'd say get the committee back together again.
Yep.
And I'm pretty certain everyone was on it, still wants to remain on it. So we can just send an
Yep.
email out to all the existing participants and just see if we can get back together.
Okay.
I would like to see a plan, a multi-year, 5-year, 10-year plan for addressing our space needs and our facility needs. And, I was disappointed that the committee didn't address that. I was hopeful that we would have a plan that we can roll out to voters, step by step.
For the most part, what the committee did is they took a $6 million
Yeah.
work order, more or less, and
Right.
then broke it down from there. What can be done internally? What can be done within the constraints of the budget? And then what was too big that it would have to go out to bid or looking for a bond to do. There was no discussion as far as if you're saying like a new school or that type of thing. There's not. It's this, when you have declining enrollment, everyone in that room was saying the same thing. You're not looking to build a new school when you have declining enrollment.
No, but I don't think adding space, I don't think fixing all the structural, the facilities issues, we still have space needs. Yes, we have declining enrollment, but we're seeing
We
an
still have
upsweep
portables
again,
in fifth grade.
I think putting it off another 5 years and saying, oh no, it's never gonna pass, we can't do it, is short-sighted. I think that's why we need a 5-year plan, so we can say, okay, we're gonna fix these things to get us through until in 5 years, this is gonna be on the budget, get ready for it. I think we need longer term thinking than just year to year. What do we have to Band-Aid this year, and, how do we get through another school year? So that's what I would like to see. I'd like to see, kind of a multi-phase, this is what we're gonna do this year, this is what's gonna be on the ballot next year, and then communicate that to the voters so that they can see, okay, we're putting in all this money, and it's serving a purpose. We're not gonna just bulldoze the building, 5 years down the line and have wasted all that money. But I think voters will get behind a logical sequential plan for our capital assets.
Many of these had time frames on them
Correct.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah, have remaining useful lives, and
Yeah.
that type of stuff.
But you look at some of them too, they said useful life is 20 years and it's already 30 years.
Yeah,
Right,
right,
exactly.
exactly.
And there were some of the things on there too that I think were addressed in there, that things that had already been completed through maintenance, projects that we had already
Yeah.
done internally. So, I think it is a good idea to get the group back together.
Right.
As John had said, he expressed interest that he was gonna stay.
Yes.
Yeah, like I
But
said, I would send the
Yeah,
entire
get an
existing.
email out,
And
set a meeting up.
And that's not to say too that you know, bulldozing GMS and building a new K through 5 building is the answer. We have, you know, we do have facilities that we can use. We can shift things around. We can, you know, be creative in our thinking and make what we have work without necessarily putting out an $18 million bond for a new school. So I just, you know, if that's the committee's task, then I want to see it happen. Look into those options and go from there.
Yeah, I don't think this particular committee's task necessarily to find room at the schools. It was more to take care of the schools. And
So
take
whose job is
care
it?
of the assets.
So if this committee isn't going to do a 5-year plan,
I'm not saying it's not gonna do a 5-year plan, but what I'm saying is, initially, what we looked at, like I said, was $6 million worth of repairs that need to be done. Then what we did is broke it down, prioritizing it. We're gonna, you know, 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 5 year. We looked at that, and that's basically how that form is broken out also. And at the same time, utilization of the space we do have. We looked at the 30s building, you can't do anything with that. You know, then we've talked about portables, what can you do with them? Now here we are turning around buying more portables.
but have we looked at, I mean, have we thought further outside the box? Have we looked at shifting grades to different buildings and, you know, like, I don't know. So
Okay.
if this committee is not, if that's not this committee's job, is to solve our space needs and figure out what we need for facilities, then
Whose job is it?
right, how do I get on the committee that does that?
I want to be on that one too. Sign me up.
I'm not,
But
I
you're
just-
talking about declining enrollment. Shouldn't we have empty classrooms? That's like,
Right.
do you know what I mean? Why aren't there empty classrooms? There are going to be 2 empty classrooms at the middle school next year. Why can't we bring 2 fifth-grade classrooms in from the buildings without bathrooms?
14 years ago, we had 158 kids. I think.
Right, it's
There were
because
130.
enrollment is declining, but services and program is increasing.
That's a whole different issue.
Well,
and take the middle school for an example. Take 25 kids out of the middle school. It's not gonna open up classes, because it's gonna be spread out across 4 grades.
right,
So you still have the exact same space problems.
but that's the thing, you know, that's our job to communicate to the community that yes, we have declining enrollment, but we still have space problems. We still need portable classrooms because the buildings that we have don't serve our needs. So, I mean, that's part of just, that's what we need to do.
And we did discuss as a committee, like, different things like at the middle school. Can we build on there? And then you start taking a look at the cost as far as building on,
Right. So,
correct?
Well, I think what you have is, I think there's 2 separate issues. I think issue 1 is what the H.L. Turner Group took a look at. What do we currently have for facilities, buildings? What do we currently need to make those current facilities and buildings, let's just say, up to current code? And what kind of HVAC issues, heating issues, all that stuff. And I think that's what they looked at. You're asking the question of what is the vision of the district 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years from now, and what kind of educational facilities do we want to have? And to me, they're 2 separate things. I think you have to take care of your current capital, so you've got to do that $5 or $6 million worth of work that needs to be done currently. But the second question is the district, if you want to be one of the top 10 districts in the state, will your current buildings allow you to grow to that point? And if they won't, then what do you need to do to add to your current buildings, or do you need another building? And I think that's a whole different question than how do we take care of what we already have. I think there's 2 separate questions here. And I think that the other piece of the thing is the new programs that we've added or that have been mandated upon us by the state and by federal regulations have really taken a lot of the space that we thought we'd have extra space. We don't have that extra space because we've had to add programs, we've had to add, specific things. And so I think Scott has done a really wonderful analysis of that for GMS, and I think he shared that with you, and you might want to take a look at the LMS analysis too. So I think there's 2 separate things. What do we have now, and how do we take care of it? Where do you want to be in 5, 6, 7, 8 years from now, and how do we get there? What's your vision?
Right.
And is that part of your vision to be, you had said you want to be one of the top 10 districts are in the state of New Hampshire. Well, the real teasing of that question is, what do you mean by top 10?
Right.
Physical structure, your academic performance, the amount of money you're spending per child? I mean, what do you mean by
Well,
top 10?
definitely.
Or is it a combination of all those things? So I think it's a big question, Tina.
But,
And to answer your question that you asked before, like, then what committee is responsible for that?
yeah,
It's right here. It's us.
okay.
I mean, and we've had the discussions, you know, as far as where can we expand, what can we do, and looking at all different avenues. And unfortunately, you know, LMS has some space where they can build out, but I don't think that, I think they're in pretty good shape as far as space. Yeah, we'd like to get the modulars, you know, out
Yeah,
and
yeah.
inside. Obviously, an easy fix is build a new K through 5, and then it takes care of your problems at LMS, takes care of your problems at GMS.
Right. Can we make that is that then a board goal that we develop this 5 to 10 year plan and work towards implementing it
Yeah, anything can be a goal,
well,
absolutely.
I also want $1 million. That's a goal, but I understand. But I don't know. I get frustrated that I don't see the progress being made towards those grand scale improvements and additions, and I haven't seen it for 10 years, 15 years. Am I alone?
No.
I think
Yes,
it's a
I'd still go-
responsible way to approach it. I mean, if you think about your house, you invest, you know, certain dollars every year in that, you know, doing different things, maintaining things, adding.
It's a good
on things.
analogy.
You know, it's just keep continuing to build that foundation. I think seems like so many of these things we've just put off year to year. I looked at that list that H.L. Turner, I was like, holy moly, I can't even digest this. There's so much.
You gotta remember, the amounts they put on there are, I mean, they're estimates. That's without going out for RFPs or anything. They don't have exact numbers on that. That's what is their experience in those types of projects, what is a roof cost on a similar size.
And you already knocked
to
off
bid those
half of it. You know, you already went through, and that this committee already knocked off half, and it's still a lot to.
There's significant work, and I mean, there's, and you'll see like this week with the driving rains that were coming down the other day. There's roof projects that are gonna have to eventually be done. So I think we need to really look at how we, and to Jim's point, how do we take care of the things that we have now?
We have to do, right.
And are we going to put out a warrant article each year to say, okay, I want to address this project, go out and do RFPs for that single project? So we definitely have to take this list and do the planning.
Yeah, and part of the challenge in the past has been, we'd go to the budget committee saying that in maintenance, we'd like an extra $100,000 to do repairs, to do something. Never really had a plan. Once we got this report from H.L. Turner, it's right there in black and white. Everything is documented, everything is broken down. And to the point where you have a budget committee member who's on the board who said, why don't we just put a bond out there for everything? And, you know, coming from Carrie, that's sounding a lot, but, and she's saying is, you need to take care of your buildings.
Yeah.
And that was the whole thing, you have to take care of your buildings.
And
H.L. Turner is telling us that, like GMS, it's a sound building. It's in very good shape, it might be old, but it's in very good shape, but it does need work as far as HVAC and this, which is extremely costly. You're talking an elementary school without a sprinkler system.
Right. And
I think $2 million of that amount by
Was
itself
GMS.
is HVAC.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't mean to take away from the need to do these repairs, but I do think we need to be a little more, you know, we do need to have a vision and keep that conversation going and keep that ball rolling while we're taking care of our needs right now. You know, those immediate fixes that need to happen.
I agree.
Completely agree.
Yeah. So we can get that, you want me to reach out and get a
I would.
meeting of that?
Yeah.
We're gonna plan, a meeting of that committee together. Also in my report, I put in a thing, student activity funds, as it relates to accounting standards and such. They've released a standard where now you have to report student activity funds as a special revenue fund in your, financial statements. Each month I do receive reports from all 3 schools about their student activity funds, all the activities and everything that go through, cash receipts and disbursements. They want it to be reported as revenues and expenditures within the financial statements. So I've already set up the format to create that and put it in the financial statements, and now as part of it, they're providing me more detail so I can review the transactions that go through, so we make sure we've got appropriate activity going through those.
Is that parking too at the high school? Is that that was the hot topic?
Heading that way.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I knew that was like, yeah, awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Parking fees at the high school, from the history that I've seen, is that initially the board had decided, I think in 2010, that the money received for parking would be used for maintenance on the parking lot.
That's
From what I
rumor
can
heard,
tell,
too.
that's
That's a
never-
rumor I heard.
That's never been what it's been used for, and there's been a couple instances where it's been authorized by the board to be used for other activities throughout the school that benefit all the students. So, as it is right now, it's being returned to the SAU and sent back to the taxpayers. So we're not doing anything with this money right now. So my thought would be to have between the school board and the administration of the high school to determine is there a specific purpose, or is there things that Mr. Lonergan and Mr. Perez believe that those monies could be used for to benefit the student body, rather than collecting money from students to park and then turning around and sending it directly back. So that's part of my.
I'm sure
I have
Mr.
lots of
Lonergan-
thoughts.
I'm sure he can find a few things to use the money.
Leave now,
Look at
Bill,
that
if
grin.
There are a couple things Mr. Perez did mention to me along. There is some painting of some parking spaces that they would like to see done, so that would be a legitimate use for it in maintaining the parking lot. But I'm sure Bill has some ideas.
I do. And I'll start off with the cynical Bill Lonigan on this one. A number of our kids pay for their own parking permits. Mom and Dad do not pay for them. So we're taking 16 and 17-year-old students' money and giving it back for $10 on a house or whatever the case may be. It's a little frustrating for me to see that. Having said that, I've been told that we can't use that money for anything. However, there are some things that I think would make great sense to use the money for. And certainly parking lot repair and maintenance, I think that's a valuable piece. And this is a way to take care of some of that so the kids have a safe and convenient and easy, accessible parking place. That's great. But I also think there's some programs we can do with students that would be super. And Mike is working on this right now. But one of the things that Merrimack High School does is a challenge day. And it's an amazing day where they bring in this group and they get students together and they sort of talk about being kind to each other and what kind of a human being are you. And Merrimack is willing to foot the bill for most of this, but they're looking for a partner school that's willing to come in for, I don't know, $1,000, $1,500 to have this group come into our school and to work with the kids and basically develop much better citizens and human beings and things like that. Those are the kinds of things that I think this money ought to be used for, particularly when we're taking it from students for parking at the high school. My thought is it really should be used for students, maybe parking, but also for other activities and things that can benefit them.
I heard they did that instead of a senior project, in lieu of.
At
Merrimack. Like promoting.
It wouldn't surprise me.
Promoting like community and
Yes.
all that, so they do that instead of a senior project.
Yeah. Mike is he'd love to see it if we could bring that to Campbell, and he's got some other ideas. And again, it's like bringing Len or bringing in, Katie.
Mr. Lonergan,
Do we have a policy for parking? I don't believe we have a policy.
how much money a year?
Except what's in the handbook.
There are 160 parking spots at $100 apiece, so it's $16,000. Yeah. Yep.
I mean, would it be possible to lower it to $50 and then
I don't
use
think we
it
even have
for-
parking spots.
They had, when it was increased from $50 to $100 in 2010, and I think it was because they were projecting a shortfall in adequacy funding in the school district, and this was a
Correct.
way
I
to
remember
make up
that.
some of that money.
Mm-hmm.
That shortfall, I don't believe happened exactly the way they were expecting, so, but it stayed at $100.
Would that, I just want to go to 50 and,
I don't think leaving parking at $100 is exorbitant amount to ask
Mm-hmm.
from them. But I also believe that the money should go back into the school.
Mm-hmm. Those water bubblers, all that stuff.
If we
I mean,
could
it's a privilege to
Yeah.
bring a vehicle and park
Yes.
there.
It is. They can
Because
have the
buses
bus.
are free now. We don't.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yep.
they used to have to pay for buses.
Buses.
And we, last year, 2 years ago?
About the classes like the
Last-
labs and
last
things
year.
at the high school that require a fee for materials, like the woodworking classes and the fax
$16,
classes.
I got my bill.
Yes.
Yeah, I have a hard time charging kids to take a class at the high school.
$20 for Mrs. Nagy's class,
Then-
16 for woodworking.
Then we're gonna have to build a little bit more money into the budget
Yeah.
for that. There's no
Okay.
question, because when you look at the, particularly the shop classes, the vocational classes that we have,
But simply put, I mean, there are monies at your access that you're just not utilizing.
no. I've been told I couldn't.
Can we use, that wouldn't offset those costs fully, but
There are so many different ways
Yeah.
that you could use this to benefit students. Buying an instrument for the band program, for example, taking care of bus transportation to an event at another school. There are ways that you could use this to pay for registrations for kids to go see a speaker at UMass Lowell or whatever the case may be. Lots of ways that
So
you
right now,
can use
it
this
goes
money.
It
into,
was kind of in limbo for a
It's
while.
returned to the SAU and it gets dumped into miscellaneous revenue in the general fund, and it,
So
through
why-
tax rate setting, it
Why is it
Sure.
not
But when it
used
comes- where's
for
it go when it comes
paving
in?
or-
into the
like
high
that?
school student activity.
Did that just happen under Frank?
so instead of going to,
That's,
Wait, has that always been like that, or is that,
No,
no?
I mean, I see it this past year, that's what happened, so there
Okay.
was,
can't it just come into the general fund right at the beginning?
it could.
And then from there, you dispense it to the high school? Or the high school can.
You'd still need an
have
account
access
for
to
it.
utilize that?
You need an account. I mean, it's, if it's sitting in a student activity
So you bring
fund
it, you bring
and
this
he-
revenue.
Yeah, if he authorizes if we authorize a purpose for it, and he holds it in the student activity account, it defers year to year. If it comes back as a revenue to the general fund,
Mhm.
it goes in as revenue, it's not deferred to the next year, it will go back.
But if he utilizes it that year,
If he utilizes that year, yes.
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Oh,
So you-
that's
you
lovely.
can do it that way. So that next year, he collects $15,000 in parking, you bring it into general fund, and he knows he's got an additional $15,000 on top of his budget to use.
Good. We track the amount. No, we have to
Jeffrey's
track the, we
smiling.
just have to track the amount.
It's no different what we're doing right now, but unfortunately, it just comes in and
Takes a
goes
step
out.
out, yeah.
Right.
Reduces a step.
It's one less amount you have to worry about in an account that you have to worry about.
While I'm here. Well, no, this is actually, has nothing to do with that. I just would, if I can at some point, another topic to discuss, if I might, and I neglected when I was up here, regarding Dr. Angie's celebration that we want to do at the school. So if you want, I'll hold and wait till the end of the meeting.
All right, we'll move on. So that's the information on the student activity
Can I
fund.
just, that doesn't leave the high school in a lurch if they decide to use the money for whatever for the next 5 years, and they need, parking lot repairs. Does that leave him in a lurch if?
No, that'll leave us. We'll just need to find money for the parking lot.
Okay.
We would have had to find money for it if it wasn't.
But you don't
It's
have to
a parking
change the policy that was in there?
No, and then,
It was a
let's say
whole
next year, we
bookkeeping
collect
thing, wasn't it?
$15,000, we know we already have to restrike the parking lot. Well,
Okay.
it costs $5,000 to restrike the parking lot, there's only gonna be $10,000 additional that
Because
can
it
be utilized.
wasn't really defined as a policy that parking fees would go towards.
No.
Was it a
It
book?
was, it was in meeting minutes. It
It
was a
was a
board
board motion.
vote.
Oh, okay.
Oh, that was
So should we make a motion to, should we do a board vote to change
That's
that?
what I was wondering.
And my suspicions are there is some significant historical precedent for the high school getting that money and utilizing that high school within the high school for the benefit of all students in the high school. I'm sure there's some significant precedents to that. I would ask Corey to take a look at just a whole collecting of revenue and how that would impact budget setting.
They used to have some big thing come in, something come in on a day and everyone was crying and they had some,
Oh, was it sad?
no, it wasn't sad. I can't remember what it was. I think that's what they, yeah.
I think it's revenues after.
No, it was
revenues.
not the car. There was something else.
It's revenues after revenues.
Yeah, but that's what that money should be used for.
Unanticipated revenues. So you can anticipate the revenues
Yeah.
and have a budget items against the anticipated revenues.
That's true.
So I think, I just want you to check into it.
Yeah, we'll do.
They won't hear it publicly.
Let's move on. At Jim's suggestion, at one of our admin team meetings, we started a security committee that includes myself, the assistant principals in the schools, and the IT director. We've gone to each of the schools, just trying to take a look at how to better restrict access in the schools, how to better. I won't go into anything specific here at this point. We're working on getting some estimates and quotes based on some ideas that have been generated, and that will be reported back to the admin team, superintendent, and then we can provide some information to the board. I provided my monthly financials for the general fund and the food service. As we get into May and June and things get a little bit clearer, I'll be looking more into these financials more on a weekly basis as we get closer to what the year-end fund balance is gonna look like, and I would hope by the second meeting in May, first meeting in June, I'll have a list of budgetary encumbrances to consider for the board and get approval so we can use some year-end funds towards things we're looking at for next year and some projects. The town recently got a new lease agreement for some of their copy machines. They had 2 copy machines that they owned that they have donated to the school district that we've taken possession of, and we're storing at the high school currently, thinking that we can possibly use one for the new kindergarten modular so that they won't be having to come in and out of the building, and utilize one, I believe at LMS, I think is the idea that Jason is looking into. I had listed on here that the May board meetings, I have a couple conferences. I initially was going to provide written reports for both meetings. I'm now planning on being here for May 23rd, so there's a slight revision for that. Just with year-end coming, I think it's important to be at the meetings to go through the year-end finances. Let me see, I think I had a couple additional things. I reached out to the DOE regarding the GMS grant, and we should hear by the week of May 9th as to final approval. It still has to go to the governor and the executive council, and then we should hear back that week on final
Do you have
approval.
plans for that, like what it would look like?
I do.
There was something else we got an invitation to.
I have to get them, they're in a folder in my desk. I
Okay.
know you had requested that of
Yeah.
me. I will get that to you.
Okay, just snap a picture.
I'll go to that one.
Yep, I can do that.
Thank you.
That's what I've got.
And how about as far as gate receipts, because I have something on gate receipts, but I didn't know if you had found out as far as basketball or what was going on.
I know there was a legal
Yeah,
opinion that came in.
that was in reference to for the Booster Club.
So in terms of, the only thing I know on gate receipts currently as they come in, I think basketball is the only sport that's currently collecting them. They're held in the student activity account at this point, and I believe they're used towards, any needs in the athletics department. Am I thinking correctly, Jared? If, replacement jersey, stuff like that.
So in reference to the Booster Club, we did get legal opinion on them collecting monies and what should be done with them. And legal counsel stated the school board's policy DFE on gate receipts, fees, and admissions provides that the principal or designee is responsible for the administration and supervision of all phases of the school events for which an admission fee is charged. The principal is also required to maintain records and account for the funds. Under the policy, the district collects, maintains, and disperses the gate fees. Therefore, under the policy, it would not be permissible for the boosters to collect, maintain, or disperse the gate fees. The board can, however, waive its policy and determine what, if any, authority and responsibility it wants to provide the boosters. However, if the school board does permit the boosters to collect, maintain, and disperse the gate receipts, it should make sure that the boosters have controls in place for the purpose, accounting, and use of the funds. So basically what that's saying is that we can allow the Booster Club, again, we can waiver our policy to allow the Booster Club to collect funds if we determine that that's what we want to do. And they can collect gate receipts and then utilize it for the purpose of what they had stated as far as the press box, the grandstands, and start utilizing monies for that. And I know the Booster Club has an entire board, so they have a president, a vice president, they have a secretary, a treasurer, and I believe we have a standing member from the high school that's on the Booster Club. So, I mean, the oversight would be there. just whether or not we want to allow them and just waive our policy, and then allow them to start collecting, for football. So really what it does, it takes us out, it doesn't go into another student activity fund, it just, the Booster Club would take care of it.
How come basketball can charge for games but football can't? That's my question.
That's a good
Because it
question.
stopped, it was, again, everything circles around that whole couple $1 million that we thought we were gonna lose several years back. And then once they didn't, is when they said, okay, we're gonna start charging admission. And somehow basketball didn't get that memo, so they just kept charging admission.
I see.
And everyone else, I don't think anyone else was charging admission at the time. So basketball just charged admission, and partly was due to the fact they're seeing that their budget was never quite large enough to cover some of their expenses, so that's why they collected monies.
Football needs more money than basketball.
Well, it's not so much, it's not gonna be for football, it's gonna be for the football complex.
Yeah.
So if we allow the Booster Club to do it, it's gonna be under the understanding, they're gonna outline what they wanna raise the monies for. And last I knew, it was for bleachers, and for their press box and little snack shack.
Concessions.
So if the boosters support all the sports, as they do, why wouldn't the boosters also collect the gate receipts for basketball? And just take over the gate receipt thing and then use it for a booster?
Don Miller is always at the door collecting.
Right now it's collected by the AD, right?
Can I speak on this?
What do they do with the money?
Jared gave me some, and it sounds like it's a little different from what you are presenting here. His recommendation that he had was, if admission fees for football games are approved by the school board, the gate receipts should be collected by the athletic director and deposited into the gate receipts accounts. Funds can then be requested by and distributed to the athletic booster club upon approval. The purpose for the request must be noted and clear. Those funds can be used toward the press box and/or stadium maintenance so long as it benefits the students.
So I read that and I wasn't sure. Like if football raises $1,000, can other teams request that money?
So-
Or is
Yeah,
it
that's-
allocated
Right.
to football?
Right, so all of the teams have their own fundraising that they do. Mr. Myers. Lots of fundraising, and they each have their own student accounts for those fundraising.
Okay,
So,
so they don't
girls soccer
be
team, the
allocated
boys
to
soccer
ours.
team,
Okay,
volleyball, yeah, they all have their own fundraising accounts. The Booster Club raises their own money. They do actually distribute it across all of the sports, okay? They buy sweatshirts for the kids, and they flowers and do all sorts of other things. So they do benefit across there. But here they're looking for that extra assistance to get the press box going. And primarily, they want to know if they can have access to some of that money that traditionally has not been spent out. Traditionally, we send students to the NHIA Leadership Conference. And again, there are some small things that they buy out of it. I'm not sure if they made reference to it here.
Basement uniforms.
Student Leadership Conference, and if you look at the football gate receipts and basketball, if you have tournament games, those go to the NHIA.
Right.
They don't even come into
Yep.
us. Yeah, so it's, there's probably $6,000 or $7,000 in there right now, I think. And we might spend $1,000 a year, $1,500 a year.
And that's from gate receipts from basketball.
That's from basketball, correct. And we don't charge anything for football. Basketball's a sneaky group, and football is the.
The
And
lacrosse
that's why the
uses
Booster
the
came to
football
us and said,
field.
can we charge admission to the football games and collect the monies so that we can start utilizing it for, field conditions?
So what I think they want is to collect the money. Jared would have to collect it like we do with any.
He would have to.
He wouldn't, the Booster Club wants to do that.
According to our policy, that stipulated is that the principal oversees it, but
Okay.
we could waiver our policy for the Booster Club.
Got it. Okay.
Is the football team okay with the booster club selling the tickets? Wouldn't the football team want to sell tickets? Do you know what I mean?
No,
Because
no,
they would not.
no,
Okay.
just, they wouldn't. They have so much other stuff
okay.
going on with,
Well, I mean, I think what Tara means is rather than going out and doing more fundraising, they could just sell tickets to their own games and keep that within the
But they do
football.
fundraising
And
for,
then would
like,
they then
for
put that money in the
iPads
account
and
to buy
stuff like
bleachers?
that.
No.
Well, no, but I guess
Oh, so it's the booster
It's a
club that's
booster
looking,
club.
Yes.
looking to do the bleachers.
I just
And-
want
and
everything
the
to be
stadium
nice and
project benefits
consistent.
from
across the
Because
board.
lacrosse uses the football field, they'll be using those bleachers, shouldn't
Right.
lacrosse be putting money
And
towards
soccer.
the bleachers? And soccer uses the field too.
I feel
You know
like
how many
they're
people go to lacrosse games?
I was there today, probably about
A dozen.
30.
Yeah. You know how many go to soccer games?
I have no idea.
About
I've
the
never
same.
been
There's
to. I've never been
bleachers
to one.
there.
It's the parents of the kids that are out there, and that's it. With football, it's a different animal altogether.
I know,
Same with
especially on
basketball.
homecoming, yeah.
They're just
Friday
different
night.
kinds of sports, yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot.
But the other
They're
thing to
fun.
keep in mind too is that there is one game that, the school
Homecoming.
chart, homecoming, that, in my feeling, if we do allow the Booster Club to do it, they should get the homecoming gate
Mhm.
also.
I don't know. I like everything to be neat and orderly and consistent across the board, and just in general.
So do you think Jared, the AD, should collect it all?
I don't know. I mean, to have basketball collect and get receipts for the basketball team, and then the football gate receipts go to the boosters.
But the basketball doesn't go to the basketball program.
It goes in their
It's one
student
account.
account.
It's a gate receipt account.
It goes into
Oh.
the gate receipt account, yes.
I see. Okay.
So the lacrosse things we're selling now, we're going into the lacrosse account. Yeah. More cards.
Yeah, I don't like it.
I'm just giving the information, we don't have to make a decision this evening, but we got legal counsel, weighed in on it for us, that if that is a direction we wanna go into, that the Booster Club could, if we, again, waiver our policy.
And it's only 4 or 5 games that we're talking about.
Mm-hmm. Homecoming's a huge,
It is
huge.
huge.
Yeah, yeah.
The food, everything there.
We've gone to several and we don't have kids in high
And even the-
school and.
yeah.
But see, it's
I
different.
was
The
surprised
Booster
they
Club gets
didn't
the monies
charge.
from the food. They don't get the gate receipt from homecoming.
And then they have Friday night under the lights. That's a separate game too, isn't it? Or is that
That's
homecoming?
homecoming.
That's open.
They should have another light game.
What's that?
They should have another game under the lights. Everyone loves those. Even you, I mean, the Bears, everybody loves those.
Maybe the Booster Club can collect enough money to buy lights.
We don't have Jen now. The grill master. That would be awesome.
So, I mean, we're still waiting to hear back from the Booster Club anyway, as far as whether or not they have a sponsor and
Right.
where they stand. So, but just wanted to give some clarification as far as gate receipts and who's getting it and who's doing what. All right, this is gonna be one of those policies that's just gonna keep coming back, isn't it?
Until you guys stop making a decision.
Kill it.
I think it's a pretty
But you keep
clear
getting
cut
more
right now.
you keep getting more information to go with this thing.
Well, you guys keep pushing it off. Sorry, I have to be candid and honest.
What do we have to do now?
So-
Approve it?
so-
Read it?
It's been revised. I don't think there's any more we could do to it.
Right, and according to NHSBA, that we don't have to put that in our policy.
No, you don't. And I took it out.
So we're not putting that policy in our policy?
No, there's a language, there's language.
As far as
that-
sending them to high school, to another high school
Oh,
for a
okay.
course.
Okay.
I thought we presented that to you last time.
We did.
Yes, we did.
This is the second time I think you've seen
That
the
was
same
Rob,
thing.
you did that, didn't you? You added that in, or you picked up on
Just
this.
approve it for first reading, and then you can discuss it again in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Exactly, when more information comes in. So can I make a motion to approve the, what is it, policy IHCD, advanced coursework and college placement?
You
I
can.
second. Put it to bed.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all's in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain.
Are you approving this as a final approval or a first reading?
I don't know.
Final? Okay. Then when you have a chance to go over the memorandum of understanding. Well, it's you in the chair, isn't it?
It's never going away.
Yeah, we
We're
do
not
have
ready
a-
to approve
We do
that?
have a memorandum of understanding that will now have to be executed with the community college system now that we have the policy.
Right.
And we can get that done.
Yeah. That's fine.
Have a copy of that.
Yeah, I read it.
Do you need a hard copy?
I don't need a hard copy, I have it right here.
Okay.
Do we need to vote on this? We're just
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 if you
approving.
vote on your policy, then you have to, you and I have to sign the
Okay.
memorandum. You have to vote on that.
Don't have to vote on it.
Do not, I do not believe
We
not.
just have to sign it.
Yep.
So if you have a copy you want to sign?
I do.
Here, have this one.
It's not done.
You don't like my copy?
Yours is stapled and double-sided. This is nicer.
Kill some more trees. Why
Yeah. Get 2 new printers. Or used ones.
don't you go ahead
I'm
and,
tired. I need to go home and go to bed.
Yeah. All right.
We did that.
So school board goals, did you want to talk about your survey now, or do you want to wait?
Sure. I just took the goals dashboard and kind of went through and made a list and kind of organized it into different sections and just plugged in my thoughts on what questions we might want to ask the community. And then I forwarded it to Tara, who added her notes. And then-
Was yours in the red?
Yeah.
And mine was over on the side.
Okay, I haven't gone back to revisit it since
I
then
did
to get
bubbles
rest
on
of
the side.
board, but I figure that's kind of a good place for us to all have our take our notes and structure it from there. And then we'll bring it to the board when
It's very
when we
heavy.
send out.
It needs to be trimmed
Yeah,
down to one
definitely.
page. It's a lot
Definitely.
of information and
Well,
acronyms
we're
and.
also gonna wanna create different variations for different groups of people, right? Students, parents, teachers, I'm assuming.
Possibly. Yeah. Well, I think as a district, we should probably poll our teachers, do a survey of our teachers every year.
I would send the same survey out to all groups.
All of them.
I would, I mean, that's,
Have people identify who they are, what they.
That would be a bubble. Yeah. Community member,
Okay.
yeah.
Sounds good. That's all I have.
do you have anything awful?
for tonight?
Yeah.
Non-public,
Yeah, we
you
do.
mean?
Let's start with
We have a resignation.
it. All right. What's that?
We have a resignation. in
Yeah.
non-public, and
No, I have
don't
something
know
else also.
If superintendent had anything
Right.
else.
So, has anybody looked at the manifest yet?
I do. You but you can have
I'll come back to that. That brings community forum.
Yeah, just so I have it.
Welcome to community forum, and we'll go into non-public.
Did you have something to say, Mr. Lonergan?
Yes, can I have, sorry.
Yeah.
One thing? Just informative, just to keep you in the loop. Currently, the students in collaboration with some of our staff maybe I should come up to the mic.
Sure.
Your name's there.
What's that?
That's your name
My
right
name
there.
is, yes. I'll turn it around so I know who I am. On Thursday, May 17th, we're going to do, during a 42-minute extended advisory, we're going to give the students and staff to come together to celebrate Dr. Angie. They had the service at the funeral home, but we really wanted to do something within the school. So there are going to be a number of events that occur. One is some students are putting together musical arrangements. We have a number of students who want to do a dance presentation. There will be some sort of a reflection activity involving sea glass. Andrea was very fond of the ocean and loved collecting sea glass, so there'll be a little bit of a constructing a wall of remembrance. There'll be several speakers, pre-approved speakers. They'd like to start a Dr. Angie Believers Scholarship. Okay, she was the one who always went for the underdogs and the students who are struggling. And she believed in everyone. She believed in every student being successful. So I think this is a great name for it. We actually have a tree that's been donated to us by one of our families, and they want to plant a tree outside the library for her. And they also, actually it says tree to be planted, but I don't think that's correct. But they also would like you to consider, and I think you should think about this, dedicating the Library Media Center to her. And again, that's a school board decision about naming buildings and doing things like that, so I'll defer to you to have that conversation. But the other piece is that her husband and her daughters are going to be there as well. So I just wanted you to know that that's where we are in the planning stages of this. And I know this won't be a short-term May 17th conclusion. Some of those things are long-term things that the staff and the students want to continue to move forward.
Can we come?
It's interesting because this was the piece that we, absolutely, you can come. Absolutely. But one of the things that we've discussed was having it at the very end of a school day. The challenge is we have so many students involved in athletics and clubs and organizations and working, and so they really wanted to do it during the school day. So it's May 17th at 9 a.m. You are all more than welcome to come and join us if you would like to be there. And if students do not want to go, nobody's being forced to go. We'll find a place where they're supervised by teachers if they don't feel the need to be there. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you.
All right. Is that something we just take under,
Pardon me?
we discuss at a later date about naming the library?
Yeah. All right, that brings us to non-public, session RSA 91-A:311. Dismissal, promotion, or compensation of any public employee or disciplining of such employee with the investigation of any charges against him unless the employee affected, one, has a right to a meeting, and two, requests that the meeting be open, in which case the request shall be granted. B, the hiring of any person as a public employee, matters which if discussed in public would likely affect adversely the reputation of any person other than a member of the body of the agency itself, unless such person requests an open meeting.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.